That's right. That's right. That is right. Hello, everybody. What's going on? What's happening? What's good? It's June 11th, 2023 episode of the Boxing Source Radio Show. JR Bell here in the building. We got a few things here that we're going to be talking about. Of course, we got a lot of stuff to go over in this particular episode, man. So we want to get this thing going, man, and we want to talk about what happened last night over in New York City. We're going to get right into it here with this one, right? We had the Ring Magazine, the WBO super lightweight titles on the line at the theater in Madison Square Garden. You had, of course, Josh Taylor coming in there with an undefeated record, coming in there as the champion at super lightweight, 19-0, 13 knockouts. His opponent, Teofimo Lopez, coming in there with a record of 18-1, the lone loss to George Kambosos Jr. Of course, he came in there with 13 knockouts of his own. And this was, his third fight in the super lightweight division. So, you had all that stuff going down, man. And, it was something that, kind of look forward to see what would happen here, man. And I was, seriously leaning towards Josh Taylor in this bout. I highly favored Josh Taylor to win in this bout. The odds had him as the significant favorite, and I expected a lot, coming out of Josh Taylor. But we're gonna get into that here. Want to add in, of course, one of our great contributors here to the Boxing Source podcast coming in here. The Boxing Academic is in the building. What's happening?
That much. Thank you, JR. I would have waited for your monologue, man. That's why I jumped on to hear you speak, brother. Hear you cook. That's what people say now. But I appreciate you for bringing me up. I'm gonna jump off a little earlier. That's why I'm coming on a little earlier.
Oh, gotcha. No problem there. No problem. But yeah, I was gonna, start cooking on the thing here with this Josh Taylor, Teofimo Lopez. Broke things. Telling the tape. You had both of these fighters with, same amount of professional fights, but Josh Taylor had, of course, his majority of his career at super lightweight, while Teofimo Lopez, this was his third fight at super lightweight. He was coming up from the lightweight division after losing to George Kambosos. He had a fight against Pedro Campa, and also against Sandor Martin last year. In the last fight against Sandor Martin, he was really struggling in that particular bout. It was a really rough fight to get through. He won by split decision in that fight. Some people may have thought that maybe Sandor Martin may have pulled that off, but Teofimo Lopez ended up getting a win. And, Josh Taylor, had a long stretch of inactivity after his fight that he had against Jack Catterall. And so this was his first fight back since that bout that was in February 2022 there against Teofimo Lopez. So it was something where, you had Josh Taylor, who, of course, came into that bout. He was looking like he was the much taller fighter and a much bigger fighter. But Teofimo Lopez, how he is as far as like his confidence level at times, his what I would say his unpredictability at times kind of makes him a dangerous type of fighter. And he gets like up and down in a number of his fights. Like it was mentioned with the Sandor Martin fight, he didn't, look all up to par. He's had previous times like that, like against Masayoshi Nakatani, had the same type of thing there where it just didn't look like he was, really into that particular bout, even though he won that pretty clearly. But when it came to like fights against Richard Comey or Vasily Lomachenko, he pretty much stepped up, to the plate as far as like when the bright lights were on. That's when he, was at his best. And here against Josh Taylor, after, a few rounds where he got comfortable, he was, looking at his best. And he was the faster fighter. He was the one that was controlling mostly everything. He looked like he was a stronger fighter, even though he, was a shorter, smaller fighter. And he just timed everything that Josh Taylor was doing. And Josh Taylor just really couldn't get off with his offense. He was, Josh Taylor kind of like approached, Teofimo Lopez, but just wouldn't get off or, use a jab or anything like that. He just waited for what Teofimo Lopez was doing. And you don't necessarily wait on a counterpuncher. You got to be able to get your offense going first before you see what Teofimo Lopez is going to do. And by, allowing Teofimo Lopez to get off and, just get in the pocket and get out, or, have his lead foot on the outside, because it was, orthodox versus southpaw. Josh Taylor was southpaw, that, he kind of didn't, smother Teofimo Lopez, and he just didn't, just have something where, what, I'm going to just overwhelm him. I'm going to tie him up. I'm going to beat him down. I'm going to make it rough. He didn't really do that. And, in some cases, some may have thought that, like, Josh Taylor may have looked a little bit lethargic in there. As far as, like, his movement was concerned, he wasn't really a good mover. Well, he isn't really that much of a good mover anyway. But the thing is, he tries to, impose his will against his opponents and also work better on the inside. So, here he just wasn't able to do that, particularly in the first half of the fight against Teofimo Lopez. And Lopez was just getting more comfortable round after round after round. And you kind of like seen that a lot of times when, either Josh Taylor would miss, or where, Teofimo Lopez would land a good shot, that Teofimo Lopez's confidence was going way up. He was, showboating a little bit here and there. And, Josh Taylor just didn't, allow him to, just stop that particular momentum. And, props to Teofimo Lopez, because even with that, little bit of showboating here and there, he kept his composure over the course of the fight. He didn't get, too, overly excited in there. Even though there was like a couple of instances where like it was a clash of heads, or, we had a little bit of bleeding, above his eye and stuff like that. It didn't really bother him that much. He just stayed, in his zone over the course of those 12 rounds. And, by the time it was like around round 10 and 11, I felt like he had a pretty significant lead up to that point, in that Josh Taylor would have to try to go for the knockout. And you really didn't see that type of urgency coming out of Josh Taylor in those last 3 rounds. It didn't look like Josh Taylor, when he was fighting Regis Prograis, or, when he was fighting, Juan Carlos or Jose Carlos Ramirez, where he, scored like a knockdown. And that was pretty much the difference in the fight with Taylor and Ramirez. But in this one, it was just like he just didn't feel like he could get off there against Teofimo Lopez, who, of course, is a young guy, and kind of, did his thing there, And so after those 12 rounds, it was a unanimous decision in favor of, Teofimo Lopez, 2 scores of 115, 113, and one score of 117, 111. And now you have Teofimo Lopez as the new, WBO and lineal super lightweight champion. I felt like it was more of like a 9 rounds to 3 in favor of Teofimo Lopez. Those 2 scores of 115, 113 kind of meant like, hey, if Josh Taylor may have pulled out that last round, it could have been a majority draw, and, Josh Taylor would have been able to keep the belts. But, with Teofimo Lopez getting this win, he is now a 2-division world champion, a 2-division lineal world champion of sorts, because, he had the lineal title or ring title at lightweight, and now he has that super lightweight. And so that kind of like opens up a lot of possibilities for him there in the super lightweight division. But, just going off this particular fight, I mean, it was kind of similar to his fight against Vasyl Lomachenko, where, he, it was a big stage, it was almost like, is it too big? Is the opponent going to be too much for him? And he just, went in there and boxed and kept his composure, even with all of the stuff that he was talking about leading into the fight, like he was gonna kill Josh Taylor, or it was gonna be kill or be killed in the ring, or I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But when it came to the fight, after those first couple of rounds, when Josh Taylor was getting off the jab a little bit, but then after that, Teofimo Lopez just seemed like he was he was a much faster guy, whether it was with his hands or with his feet. And you didn't really see Josh Taylor like move around as far as like his defensive positioning was concerned. So that was a problem for Josh Taylor on multiple occasions, where he was off balance a few times when Teofimo Lopez was throwing shots too. And there was a couple of instances where Josh Taylor was seriously hurt, where it almost seemed like Teofimo Lopez could have scored at least one knockdown. But even when he didn't score that knockdown, he didn't get too overly excited, too reckless in there, and just kept his composure and just won round by round by round, and was able to get this particular win. I think this one was more impressive than his fight against Vasily Lomachenko, because at least with the Lomachenko fight, Lomachenko was able to get himself back and win a series of rounds, particularly in the back half of that fight. But here it was just more of the effort of Teofimo Lopez getting the best of Josh Taylor in this joint. You know what I'm saying? Shout out live there to Mill City Boxing in the building. Mill City Boxing, doing the work, big time work out there in the boxing scene, man. I'm gonna see if I could hit you up with the link here in a bit, man. But yeah, that's what I got as far as like this, my initial reaction. What you got, Boxing Academic?
So I enjoyed the fight for a number of different reasons. It wasn't the most electrifying fight in the world. Let me be the first one to say that. Mm-hmm. But one of the biggest themes to me going into this match was, now I didn't watch all of the pre-fight antics, let me say that. But one of the biggest themes going into this match was Teofimo's mental toughness or lack thereof. And so it was to the point to where he was, quite frankly, the underdog, the betting underdog, and probably even the fan underdog. Yeah. The fan favorite underdog. And so for me, seeing that and, seeing how volatile he is mentally, I empathize with people like that, because unfortunately, those are the type of people, excuse me when I say this, but who end up hurting themselves and stuff. And so for me, caring for my fellow man, I want him to, understand that as long as you give your best effort, then sometimes it go your way, sometimes it don't. That's no indictment on you. But if you don't give your effort, then that will probably hunt you. So if you remember a few weeks ago, I mentioned this theme in there where I said, Teofimo, this is your opportunity to prove everybody wrong. Everybody's going against you. This is your opportunity to give it all you have. And if you lose, you lose. But that's no indictment on you.
Right.
Now, I can't say he was pushed to give it all he had. Right. He wasn't taken to a place to where he had to dig down. Meaning, to me, I want to give him credit, but then I'm going to throw some contrary stuff in there. I want to give Teofimo credit because he did what he needed to do to win a fight where he was clearly the underdog in multiple facets. Mm-hmm. And that takes a lot of will and courage and a lot of other stuff to do that. But let's be quite frank. The guy who I saw in that ring, I'm one of the ones who hadn't watched a lot of Josh Taylor's fights. I watched a couple, like just a few rounds, but I never would just like watch the full fight and judge one of his fights. I didn't watch the Regis Prograis fight. I didn't watch the Ramirez fight. Like I saw some of it, but it was late at night, and I think it was another card that same night. So I was watching that other card. Mm-hmm. And then So, he was described and then, about everything that he did in this division. And I don't want to seem like a hater because that's what this probably going to seem like. He earned everything that he needed to earn. Let me say that. However, he did it in the same division that Terence Crawford became undisputed against Ndongo in. I know what your rebuttal to that is going to be, JR, is that Josh Taylor's route to undisputed was still tougher than Terence Crawford's. And that is, no one can refute that. I can't refute that. But what I am saying is that Josh Taylor won undisputed in a arguably weak division. I'm not saying these fighters aren't good, but what I'm saying is the fighter that I saw yesterday whose game plan is to be flat-footed and to bully you and to throw shots on the inside and pretty much out-muscle you, he's the one who beat all these other fighters, Regis Prograis, Jose Ramirez, and in that style, sure, he was better than all those fighters. And/or I know there were some questionable fights in there. But the point that I'm making is this is still, to me, the same weak division that Ndongo lost belts for the undisputed. And with that being said, a guy like Teofimo, who is extremely talented when his mind is in the game, comes in this fight and beats this guy with a moderate effort, which again tells me that the guy I saw in that ring, Josh Taylor, while he's good at what he does in beating all those fights, I'm not taking away from that. Please don't think I'm saying that. But all I'm saying is the guy's limited, and it showed yesterday. Now, getting on Teo, I commend Teo because he did what he needed to do against all of these odds that was against him. Let me say one more thing on Josh Taylor. I didn't look at the pre-fight antics, but if you remember what I said about a week or so ago, or even that mid week review, when I saw Josh Taylor in the weigh-in or whatever they had, and how animated he was and just extra, I said something to this extent to where I said, that guy don't look like the guy who gonna come in this fight and like, outshine or whatever. He looks like the mentally weak person. Now, what I didn't know is that T.O. was saying he gonna kill him and all that stuff. I wasn't aware of that. But at that weigh-in, Josh Taylor looked like the mentally weak fighter, whereas T.O. was a rock. And maybe that was mind games and stuff, and it seemed to work. But at the end of the day, getting on T.O. is a one-shot wonder. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful toward him. I'm simply saying that he's an extremely talented fighter. But T.O. even in himself is limited. He's limited because he only throw one big-ass shot, either the left hand or the right hand or the uppercut or whatever. He ain't setting up shots by like, take this with a grain of salt. Say what?
Like a consistent jab.
Yeah, I was gonna say by skill, but that's relative. By a consistent, he's not setting up shots by other shots. He's not layering in his offense to set up shots. If you can't beat T.O.'s first line of defense or offense, which is throwing big shots or dodging you and throwing a big shot, if you can't get past that first line of offense, you're gonna be in trouble. Which is what happened to Lomachenko earlier in the fight, but then Lomachenko got used to it. He knew how to dodge and then counter. And so if you attack T.O. and you don't allow him to get those big shots off and you counter him and you have a consistent sort of jab, because that deters him so much when you like touching him to where he's afraid to throw the big shot. And then if you land a big shot against him, he like when he first started that fight, he was unsure.
Yeah.
He was unsure when he started the fight. And the more that he threw those big shots, and then he kept asking himself, when is he going to throw something back at me? When is he gonna hit me with something? And then once like round 3 or something or 4, where he realized this guy wasn't gonna throw shots back at him, he started feeling himself. But again, he's the same guy. I'm happy he won because I can be honest without trying to protect people's feelings. So I'm glad that he won, but he's still the same guy who I question his mental toughness, because had there been a different fight, like the Kambosos fight, where somebody is being gritty and being in your face and not letting you get an opportunity to just clown and do all this other stuff, we see how he responds. Josh Taylor didn't do that because, quite frankly, he's more limited than Teo. He's so limited to where Teo's one-shot wonder, Josh Taylor couldn't get past that. And so, hats off to Teo. He did what he's supposed to do. I'm not taking away from his win. I'm just simply saying this division, if that's the champion, this division is weak. Like it was when Terence Crawford beat Ndungo, which I knew it was weak then because I watched multiple fights of Ndungo and I knew his ability. There's one more thing that I was going to say about this whole thing, which was, I'm trying to remember what it was. I said so many points here. It was a piggyback off of maybe what you said, which I think it was around. Let me just end here. But I'm happy that Teo won because, you know, who knows what would have happened to this guy if he would have lost with everybody being against him.
Yeah, I get that.
And then with him winning, if you had a different fighter who believed a bit more and who was willing to press to get knocked out. So the thing okay, this is what I was gonna say. The thing that I want to point out is that there was enough backing behind Josh Taylor to where you said this tangentially. If Josh Taylor actually decided to lay it out on the line and press, which he could have got, knocked down at that point. But I'm just saying, if he actually tried to lay it down and press, i.e. that 12th round, he could have still had his belt. Right. If he would have laid it out on the line on that 12th round in a way that he didn't get knocked down, because, T.O. was hitting him with some big shots and stuff, and it was looking tough for him. But if he'd have exerted himself a lot more and believed that, this is out of my hands, but, let me just try to knock him out of something, and won that last round, he could have kept his belts. And with Teo being a one-shot wonder, I'm going to end it here. The guy is limited, and he's very beatable. With the guys who can get past that first level of offense, which is them big shots that aren't set up behind any other offense, he's very beatable. And he's going to go back in his reclusive shell because he don't know what else to do other than throw them big shots. Like, he ain't setting up shots and stuff. He need to get with somebody that teach him how to use his ability, because the man got a lot of talent. Yeah. But hard work beats talent when talent does not work hard. He throwing 1 or 2 shots. That's not going to work against Devin Haney. That's not going to work against Gervonta. Yep. That's not going to work against Shakur Stevenson. That's the wrong division, ain't it? Or that's the right division?
Well, that was Shakur, but Tank and Dev, they could be up at 140. Tank has had a fight at 140 before, so he could go up there once again. And I just ran into or just stumbled on one of my partner's videos where he said, hey, maybe you could have a Tank Davis versus a Teofimo Lopez fight, there at 140. But, that, remains to be seen. But, going to your point, and one of the points that you were making in reference to Teofimo Lopez is that he is more of a guy that works off of confidence. And, when you were talking about how leading into the fight that Josh Taylor kind of was hesitant about, beating Teofimo Lopez, or when you had that the face off and everything like that, and when Teofimo Lopez was talking, and that bothered Josh Taylor. That kind of to me I thought that was something that to the effect of getting to his psyche. You know what I'm saying? Because if you compare it to Teofimo Lopez's fight against George Kambosos. George Kambosos leading into the fight said, "You know what? I feel like I could beat this man, and I wasn't and I'm not intimidated by you. I'm not fazed by you. It doesn't matter like what you do, how you act, or whatever it is. I'm coming for you, and I'm coming for those belts." And that's how he approached that particular fight. So he was able to get that big start, and then even after being knocked down by Teofimo Lopez, he was still able to get the win over those 12 rounds. Well, here with Josh Taylor, he just felt like he really couldn't do that much against a guy in Teofimo Lopez, as you say, is kind of limited in his offensive repertoire. Yes, he does have some ability and skill as far as like his youth, his movement, and things like that. But when it comes to his offense, throwing punches,
his variety,
variety of punches, he just doesn't have that. And kind of leading into this fight, I talked about it. He kind of works off of a counter punching mentality that he waits to see what his opponent does first and then works off of that. And he doesn't really take the lead that much. And that's where you say like he can't really throw that many punches off that because he doesn't have a jab. He doesn't have a consistent jab that he could work off of where he could come off that jab with a hook and come in with 3-punch combinations. It's more of like him reacting to what his opponent's doing and then, just working from that, And so, some of the things that he was doing in there from an offensive standpoint, you really shouldn't do as a fighter that you want to say is a close to a complete fighter. Like those couple of occasions where he just, stood there and looked at Josh Taylor and then lunged in and was able to land a punch while lunging in. Like you don't do that leaving your feet. You don't do that, against who was supposedly a high level fighter. Like if someone did that while you're out of range, they could just step out of range or step to the side and counter you. And that could be an opportunity for a flash knockdown right there. But Josh Taylor, on 2 occasions where that happened with Teofimo Lopez, he just stood there and just stared at Teofimo Lopez and let him, hit him in the face, And so that kind of, like showed that, Josh Taylor was just not completely, there ready for Teofimo Lopez, even though Teofimo Lopez, as you said, has multiple flaws in there. And so, I kind of like felt like Josh Taylor, if he was, I guess, like you say, if he was that high level fighter there in the super lightweight division, then he should have been able to, properly handle Teofimo Lopez. Yeah, I know that, he has this thing where he fought like 6 consecutive unbeaten fighters. Yeah, sure. But he stopped like two of those, 6 fighters. And the majority of those other fights, those were fairly close fights that he had against these guys, against Regis Prograis that, that was a close fight. Jose Carlos Ramirez was a close fight. Jack Catterall was a close fight. So it's not like he, was head and shoulders above, these fighters that he was, defeating. It was just something where he just, eked it out with by 2, 1 or 2 rounds or something like that, So from an ability standpoint, yeah, maybe, Teofimo Lopez was the better fighter there from an ability standpoint. But, I mean, he's the one that was, coming up from 135 to 140 while, Josh Taylor had that, established himself as a 140-pound fighter, somebody that, was a bigger man. And, that's what I saw early in the bout. He was just a much bigger man. Like you were supposed to, swarm your man, have the ability to cut off the ring, which he didn't do, and it was just like it was almost like he didn't really know what to do.
Or even throw a body shot.
Yeah, he didn't do that. Well, 1, he couldn't really throw a body shot. 1, he was 10 to 2, he was out of position. When I saw like the lead foot of Teofimo Lopez being on the outside of Josh Taylor, like Josh Taylor really couldn't do that much. I felt like whatever he threw, like Teofimo would have been able to like either block it, slip it, or move up, or move away from it, and that's what it seemed like. But the key thing there, what you said in reference to Josh Taylor, was that it almost like seemed like he didn't want it in those last few rounds, and given the scorecards, and even his corner kind of like said it, like they were like saying, hey, you got these last couple of rounds. If you could, give that good effort or get something, you could pull out, you could walk out of here with these belts. And he didn't necessarily do that. He was just, very tired. Some could say lethargic at times. But if he was able to do something in that 12th round, he could have took that 12th round and it could have ended up being a majority draw. And he would have been able to still keep the titles. But he wasn't, able to do that. And hey, you got Teofimo Lopez there is now the new champion, WBO and Ring Magazine champion there at 140 pounds. And, to your point in reference to the 140-pound division, like it's something where, like you were saying, you got Josh Taylor that, defeated, Jose Carlos Ramirez, that defeated Regis Prograis, who, is now a champion again at 140 pounds. A couple of other guys, there in that division that were, around the top of the division. He actually defeated Victor Postol some time back too. Who was also an opponent of Terence Crawford. But even with all of that, he still didn't have the overall abilities to defeat Teofimo Lopez in this particular instance. And, that kind of like said a lot. And, also on the front of Teofimo Lopez too, some were saying like, hey, this is it. I kind of like said it last week that this particular fight could be one of those do or die type of situations there for Teofimo Lopez, and also ties into what you were saying last week. I mean, at least if we felt like if Josh Taylor was going to be winning, if Teofimo Lopez just gave a good effort but just fell short with a decision, then that could have been really good. But if he ended up getting blown out or ended up getting stopped, and that could have really done something to the psyche of Teofimo Lopez. But here, he, like I said, he was able to keep his composure, stay patient, do what he needed to do in order to win rounds, not really get too careless, not really get too, wild, except for, those couple of times when he was lunging out. Because I guess he felt like Josh Taylor really couldn't do much on him for him to do those type of things, but with him being able to do that, that kind of like just said, like, you know what, I got control of this fight. I'm winning this fight. And, Josh Taylor really can't do much here against me, So, props to him to pulling that off.
Yeah. And piggybacking off of something you said, and to your point, Josh Taylor beat all those guys that you named, and styles make fights. So I have to be fair in saying that Regis Prograis would probably be a good fight with Teofimo Lopez. Do you think so?
I don't know. And the reason why I say that is because with your point of styles make fights, a good number of those opponents that Josh Taylor had kind of had a similar style in reference to, being there like right in front of them. You know what I'm saying? That they weren't really, up on their feet, light on their feet, moving around and this type of thing, and moving their head, moving their body, and that type of stuff. They didn't really quite do that. But here with Teofimo Lopez, he was able to show that element against Josh Taylor, which Josh Taylor, I guess, couldn't really adjust to. And so that ended up being a problem for a majority of those rounds. After the first few rounds, it was kind of like almost like two different levels, so to speak.
So to that point of two different levels, what was Josh Taylor's amateur background like?
Like I don't know if it was like that. You know what I would say. It was fairly extensive. You know what I'm saying? He kind of
Like he
like
made it to the Olympics?
kind of like was floating around there competing. But he didn't quite make it. You know what I'm saying? He
So
didn't
he
quite.
did or did not make it to the
Uh,
Olympics?
yeah, he didn't make it in 2012.
Okay, because what typically these type of fights like this, you have people that are good at the style that they do, and they can beat these average fighters. Josh Taylor gonna beat these fighters. As you mentioned, it was close fights, but he eked it out. But then when you
Yeah.
face somebody, I don't even know how T.O.'s amateur background, but I'll let you tell me that in a second. But when you face someone who has, an exceptional skill or has been tested under fire, like with the Olympics and stuff, they can crank it up to another level, and fundamentals can make it look like it's two different levels, which is why Spence is probably gonna win more rounds, and then it's gonna take Terence Crawford to hurt him to keep the fight honest and close. Unless Terence Crawford come out there with a jab, which he get a little bit, I ain't gonna say lazy, but he get like he forget that he have a jab at times. But
Mm-hmm.
unless he change something about his style and he throw more punches and he can keep the output up, he gonna be down, and then he gonna have to land a big shot to even the round.
Yeah.
And fundamental, somebody who, I don't know Errol Spence amateur background, but he's fundamentally sound, enough.
Yeah, and he
And
kind
he
of
throw
like
a bunch
brought
of
that up
punches.
in the point too.
He what?
Like Spence kind of brought that up too. He said he was more of like a Tim Duncan, in a boxing type of thing. He kind of like compared like the fight between him and Terence is going to be like, him being like Tim Duncan and Crawford being like a Kevin Garnett or something like that.
That's a fair comparison. And the
So
thing is, Tim Duncan could literally get buckets on Kevin Garnett, but it
yeah,
ain't gonna be pretty. Kevin Garnett definitely can get buckets. He gonna be dunking on Tim Duncan and stuff. But shit, Tim Duncan could very well beat Kevin Garnett, right? Like
yeah.
it's it won't be pretty, but he could very well beat him.
Yeah. So yeah, but back on the thing there with Josh Taylor, man. I mean, he kind of like had some type of a little bit of an amateur background too, but so did Teofimo Lopez. But with Taylor, like his type of competition that he had in the amateurs wasn't. At least I don't think it was like at the level of what Teofimo Lopez was dealing with. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of like have that type of a comparison on that front, but then also with what Josh Taylor was doing in his professional career, yeah, he had those fights, like I said, those high level fights, in those previous 2 or 3 years. But it's pretty much like a certain style that he's more comfortable with. If he's, I guess if he's not dealing with a mover, someone that moves his legs fairly well, then he'll have problems against those type of fighters. And I guess that's what happened there with Teofimo Lopez. He was just a guy that was a bad style matchup for Josh Taylor. Now, I know that Josh Taylor feels like he wants to get another crack at it, have a rematch of there against Teofimo Lopez. But I'm saying, I mean, I don't know, like some may say that it was a layoff that kind of affected him or something like that. Or, maybe he had to work on a few things in order to get himself prepared for this fight. I don't know, but like in this instance, it just seemed like it was a style matchup issue there for Josh Taylor. So if he has another fight with Teofimo Lopez, you might be seeing the same things here. That you saw yesterday. So,
That's a great point, because someone else that we know who at one point was the pound per pound king was made to look like a emperor, a king in in most of his early fights, up until he ran up against a boxer who was very exceptional. And then once he now, as an older fighter, fights these boxers, people that have good movement, got a strong enough jab to keep him honest, he has a lot of problems. So he does well because he's exceptional. I'm waiting to say his name. He's exceptional. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this, but he's limited per the style matchup. Canelo Alvarez. Styles make fight. Like, you can make Canelo look like a god if you put James Kirkland's in front of him.
Yeah, if you put, guys like James Kirkland, of course, like his last fight, that he had. Also, he, was looking, really good in that particular instance too. There when he fought John Ryder, or against a guy like an Adley Yildirim or Sergey Kovalev, who's there right in front of him. But if you have someone with any type of movement, any type of good movement, he'll have a little bit of issues there before, and then you got to see what happens if he catches up to him. Like a Daniel Jacobs, he had some difficulties in that fight. He had some little issues here and there for that Billy Joe Saunders fight before being able to get in range and catch him. Caleb Plant, same thing,
But the intangible about Canelo Alvarez that people need to learn and respect, put some respect on his name, is that in all them fights, maybe except for B-ball, I got to think about it, but he never stopped trying to land his shot.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if he stopped trying, if he was discouraged in the B-ball fight. I think he was.
He was.
Yeah. But outside of B-ball, who's the bigger fighter, who has that boxing skill, Canelo has never, when he was getting outboxed, he never stopped trying. And that's the lesson that people need to take from Canelo. Sure, you may be more athletically gifted than this guy, but he's coming for you. He feels that he can win because he got that Mexican dog in him, and you got to respect him for the pride that he has in trying to win when he's outmatched in a certain, attribute. So, yeah.
Yep, that's true. So, I mean, at least, Canelo has that thing where, he feels like he could, get to his opponents, sooner or later. It was just, that time there with Bivol, where Bivol, had the movement, had the range, had the jab, could bounce in and out that, Canelo just couldn't really, get to. So that was it. But, with Josh Taylor, man, that like he doesn't necessarily have like that type of thing where he could touch you and really hurt you. So against a mover like a Teofimo Lopez, that would be problematic for him. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, if he wants to go for a rematch, I mean, we'll see what happens, because there's, like I said, there's a whole lot of situations there for Teofimo Lopez at this point. Especially going off of what I guess going off of these 3 fights, coming off of the loss, like he, this is almost like a second chance type of thing for him, whatnot, there for Teofimo Lopez when it comes to Top Rank. You know what I'm saying? Because he had that whole little falling out, after beating Lomachenko, and then the whole mess with the George Kambosos fight. And so after losing that, then it was like, where you go? Where does he go? And he gets his other shot, and here he's able to cash in. Shout out to those listening live. If you're listening live on YouTube, you can hit the like button. If you appreciate what we got here with the content on the Boxing Source podcast, want to bring in another guest here that's been a great contributor on the chat, but also has been live here a couple of times. Tip Bellis in the building. What's happening, Tip?
Yo, JB was good, man.
Yo, what's happening, man? What's happening?
Much. Teofimo, man. The takeover is back.
Hey, man, he pretty much like did the takeover, and it was almost like a redemption tour, man. Like I said, his performance there was like very impressive. It was almost like his fight against Lomachenko. I mean, there was like a lot on the line. At least I felt like it was for him. in this particular bout, and he, stayed composed over the 12 rounds.
Well, he did what I expected him to do, and that's box. Like when I watched the Sandor Martin fight, he didn't box. He wanted to have a fight. He wanted to move on the front foot and just attack him. And you can't do that with a guy like that who's going to move around. Like you got to make him come forward to it. You know what I'm saying? You got to make him come to you. But he didn't do that with Josh Taylor. He stayed center in the middle of the ring. You know what I'm saying? Made Josh Taylor make the mistakes, countered. Did everything he was supposed to do.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true, man. And you kind of like seen that after those first couple of rounds. Josh Taylor had a little bit of success in those first few rounds, but I guess Teofimo was able to make that proper adjustment, and once he was doing that, and you kind of like seen the offensive approach of Josh Taylor just, I would say, almost like disappear, after like 6 rounds or so. And then once that happened, it was like, Teofimo Lopez could do almost anything he wanted. And he kind of like, tried a couple things. Like I said, he was able to, do a hesitation and then lunge forward with the right hand, lead right hand or something like that. I was like, yo, some of these things you're not, really supposed to be doing. And he was doing them and getting away with it. But, hey, if it worked for him, then it works for him.
Josh Taylor's best chance at winning that fight was to utilize his jab, and he didn't do that.
Yeah, he didn't do it because he didn't use it, one. And then two, like my thing that I was most critical about with Josh Taylor was like his positioning was way off on multiple occasions. And you seen it early with his lead foot. He was like on the inner side. I'm like, you're the bigger man, and you have your your lead foot on the inside of your opponent. That's almost like that first fight that Anthony Joshua had against Alexander Usyk. I'm like, you're the bigger man. You're supposed to be able to corner him or cut off the ring and swarm him. But in order for you to do that, or at least try to establish that, you at least got to have your lead foot on the outside of his foot. And Joshua wasn't doing that in the first fight. And here, Josh Taylor just didn't do that against Teofimo Lopez, and that ended up, being a big detriment to his approach there, at least in the first half of the fight, where Teofimo Lopez was starting to build up his lead.
I'm surprised that Taylor didn't try to initiate an inside fight as much as I thought he would.
Yeah, he tried. He just limited.
Yeah, but I expected it to be somewhat of a brawl going into like the later half of the fight, not this type of boxing match. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, it was like he was coming forward, but he was hesitant on what he was going to do once he got within the range, I guess, where he felt like he could throw a punch. Was it something where I guess Teofimo's counterpunching ability was just something that made him hesitant? Maybe so. But the thing about it is, like I said, I'm like, you're the bigger guy. You're supposed to be able to do something, at least to, tie him up, or, kind of like do a Vladimir Klitschko, jab and grab or something, you know what I'm saying? Or do, something like that, or be like, like how Josh Warrington fights sometimes. He'll, try to get on the inside and work the inside and, try to tie you up and not really, have you get your offense off. But Josh Taylor really didn't do that in this bout. When I was kind of surprised about that.
Yeah, his best bet was to take away Teofimo's legs and just attack the body. And Teofimo, he was able to use his legs all night. I don't know, man. I've never.
He was able to use his legs all night, and the thing about it is like you didn't even see any instance where Teofimo Lopez had to adjust to something that Josh Taylor was doing.
At all.
Use his legs and throw one shot at a time.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's the one thing I do dislike about Teo. And I feel like when you fight a guy who knows how to utilize a jab, you can't just sit there and throw one punch at a time. You have to be able to combination punch. And I feel like that's a flaw in Teo's game that they may have to work on in future reference.
Yeah. That's big right there because and I didn't see, a consistent jab from Teofimo Lopez in his last fight against Sandor Martin at, MSG. You didn't really see that here. It was more of like, him, just sitting there waiting on what Josh Taylor was going to do. And if he just felt like there was an open shot, then, he would just throw a punch, but he just doesn't do anything where, as Boxing Academic said earlier, like throws a jab and then works off his big shots from that jab, or, tries to set up, traps for his opponent, and, like I said, it's going to be interesting there with Teofimo Lopez. There's a whole lot of options for him here at this point, now that he is the WBO super lightweight champion. I mean, I know that Josh Taylor was talking about there could be a, potential rematch. I don't know if it was a rematch clause for this or anything like that. But, was out there, at least the option there for Josh Taylor. But you also have it where, hey, this could open the door for, Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney, for, Devin Haney to move up to, 140 pounds. All he has to do is just move up and he'll be, that top contender right there, and so, hey, this could open that door for this fight.
With the WBO, he has an immediate shot, right?
He does pretty much have an immediate shot or something like that. Well, at least if he is like the super champion in the WBO, then I know the WBO super champion does have that. But when you're like the world champion or something, then yeah, I'm not all too certain on that.
Well, who has the super? Who has the super?
I'm gonna see if Dev. I'm gonna see if Dev was a super champ.
I'm gonna say something on that while you're looking that up. If that happens, stay away, Tio. Stay away. Keep your pride and your your little 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of fame, and don't do that, because you will lose off activity, or B, your eye gonna be swollen because he gonna be hitting you in the face all the time. It's just,
now that's someone that's gonna have a consistent jab, and yeah, I confirmed that at lightweight, Devin Haney is the super champion for the WBO. Bringing in another great guest coming in here, the host of War Week Radio Network, Joseph Herron in the building. What's going on, Joe?
Hey, Big J, how you doing tonight, brother?
Doing okay, man. Doing okay. Like I said, just taking in what happened there at the theater at Madison Square Garden, man. We had a good little critique from Boxing Academic on both sides.
Well, I tell you what, Academic, good to hear from you, man. Good to see you on the panel. And Tip, always a pleasure, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Tell you what, man. I say this all the time, guys. Trust your eyes. Trust your eyes. Trust what you see in the ring. Don't listen to all of these guys on YouTube that suffer from herd mentality and don't want to take the time to actually study film, look at fight tape, and come up with their own conclusions, right? Come up with their own assessments, because everyone, almost 90% of boxing channels, supposed experts on YouTube, within the YouTube boxing community, got this terribly wrong.
Oh man,
right?
did they? When I saw the odds were crazy. To have Tio as the B side, at a plus 135. I won 11 grand last night.
Yeah, the only reason why I picked the decision was because Josh Taylor is a customarily durable warrior in the ring. This is a guy he's been in so many wars, and you're not going to knock this guy out. Although Teofimo Lopez did a very, very good job in trying to get it in the final round. And I tell you what, if this were 15 rounds, Josh Taylor wouldn't have made it to see the final bell. But it is what it is. And I will say this, two things that people were completely overlooking. And if they weren't caught up on this mindset narrative that proved to be absolute hogwash, two glaring discrepancies. When you look at Josh Taylor, you look at how much One, he's 35 years old and he's been in several wars. Okay, he's seen his best days in this sport are way behind him, right? And then two, the glaring, you look at how much faster, more athletic, the explosive power of Teofimo Lopez. And if you looked at fight tapes side by side, right, in their most recent outings, their last 2 or 3 outings, the hand speed and the just athleticism of Teofimo Lopez, you saw that was going to be a big problem for Josh Taylor. And that was the reason why I picked Teofimo Lopez. And if anyone listened to the show, well, yeah, it was pretty obvious that was going to happen. But I will say this, Josh Taylor, in the first half of the fight, I would say the first 4 rounds, really made a gallant effort. And he really took the fight to Teo. Yeah. And it took Teo, a good, I would say, an entire third of the fight just to get adjusted, just to get his eyes adjusted to the movement, the style, the get used to the physicality.
To believe, Joseph. To believe, Joseph.
Huh?
It took him that long to believe in himself.
I don't know about that. This is a guy who's brimming with confidence. Now, once again, this is a product, and here's why everyone picked Josh Taylor, because it's public perception. It's public perception. Now, once again, James, you're 99% of the time you're right about this stuff. Now, I think everyone, pretty much, well, I wouldn't say everyone, but most people, they fell into that trap that, well, Teo's he's in his own head. He's not thinking clearly. He's not coming into this fight at the apex of his confidence. He wouldn't be in the ring if he were that way. Look, he may be a buffoon and say the most ridiculous thing at times, but he's not. That's not exclusive to Teofimo Lopez. That's a lot of fighters, right? And you know this, James. They say the most absurd things at times. And people made too big of a deal about that. Teofimo, if you saw his ring entrance, his swagger marching to the ring. Now, once again, just like Adrien Broner, these guys aren't short of any confidence. They truly believe in their abilities, and that's why at times they say the most absurd things. It's like, wait a minute, what universe are you living in? And
Joseph, everybody got confidence till they get hit in the mouth. And if you hit Teo in the mouth and you hit him in the mouth pretty often, then that false facade of confidence goes away, which is what happened in Australian guy.
George Kambosos? No, man. He never stopped. Now, keep in mind, I think you guys are discounting that ailment that he was dealing with. That was a serious ailment, and I don't know why people actually discount that. But I even called the upset going into the Kambosos fight. I'm like, look, this guy's killing himself. If I were him and if I were his team, I would completely cancel that fight. Let them strip him of the IBF trinket. It's not worth it because he's not going to be 100% going into this fight. Keep in mind, and that's why I was able to call that upset, because keep in mind, when you're already killing yourself to make 35, and then you go through the entire Triller debacle where they change dates 8 different times. You're having to peak at a specific time in camp, and then they all of a sudden change the date. You got to go through that entire grueling process again. James, he did that 8 different times. You guys cannot discount that. That's how I was able to see the upset. It has nothing to do with confidence. Now keep in mind, this is a guy who never gave up in that fight. He got up off the canvas early, and then he's killing himself, trying to be the best version of Teofimo Lopez he can be. And at the tail end of that fight, never gives up, floors Kambosos late, makes a gallant effort to try and get the knockout, but it was too little too late. But he never quit. And why? Because he wasn't short of confidence. This is a kid who's always believed in himself. And after the fight, he made it abundantly clear you know what? I'm tired of people picking on me. I'm tired of people trying to bully me. You know what? I'm just going to retire. He believes that this is a thankless endeavor for him. Not only is he not receiving the money that he believes he deserves, which is absolute bullshit. Okay, you get what, especially when you deal with Top Rank. Okay, you get what you deserve, right? You get what your market value dictates. So he's got this inflated sense of worth. And once again, why is that? Because he is brimming with confidence. So that entire narrative, that's not true, guys.
So had he lost his fight, had he lost his fight, what do you think would have happened to Teo? Let's say he lost the fight and he lost in a fashion that he got knocked down and he effectively like quit and didn't really try, because in some of his fights, that's what I see from him. But let's say he lost.
No, guys. This is now, once again, you're talking about, this is why I'm saying you guys are truly convinced of this narrative, even after he proves you wrong. You guys are still rolling with this narrative, and it's nonsense, academic. With all due respect. Now you're looking at Sandor Martin.
Can you answer the question? Had he lost, how do you think he would have? How do you think he would have responded?
That's a hypothetical that I can't even fathom, because I picked Teofimo Lopez in this fight because of what I saw, right? So you're talking about a hypothetical that wasn't going to happen. Guys, if you just listened to my show, I could have told you and once again, James Gogi supported this. That he wasn't going to lose. The athleticism, he was going to have some problems early, because Josh Taylor's a great fighter, but he's 35. Okay, and we knew he was going to be a fast starter, going to come out of the gate very quickly, but he wasn't going to, the speed, the athleticism, the explosiveness. And as soon as he got with some of those sharp counters and didn't see him coming, it was going to turn him into a tentative fighter. Okay, during Coach Gogi's show this past week, he spelled it out for you during his breakdown. So you're talking about a hypothetical that we knew wasn't going to happen. So it's impossible for me to answer. But I will say this, perception has been skewed because of how much he struggled against Sandor Martin. And there's no shame in that. That's like you saying, well, what if Tyson Fury would have lost, okay, because of his struggle with Otto Wallin. Guys, no one looks good facing a southpaw who moves. In fact, that's why Frank Sanchez can't buy a fight at this time, because he's got a style that no one wants to face. So the fact that Teofimo Lopez got through Sandor Martin when he's the guy who put Mikey Garcia into retirement says a lot. You guys are completely discounting, and obviously still are. And he just became the lineal 140-pound champion. What more does he have to do? Now, once again, I'm siding with Teofimo Lopez now, because it's like, what more does he have to do to make you guys believers in his ability?
Can I say something back to that? So if you heard my monologue earlier, you would know my position. But I was glad that he won, and I personally haven't watched a lot of Josh Taylor's fights, but I had a different perspective. But nevertheless, seeing what I saw yesterday, Teo did what he needed to do, but the right fighter in front of Teo will become a reclusive fighter who questions his ability to win.
Nonsense. And once, with all due respect, my friend, you're wrong. This is a guy who's brimming with confidence, okay? And once again, the reason why perception is such is because everyone heard that absurd soundbite. Hey, do I still have it? And they're making too much of this.
I didn't hear the soundbite, though. I didn't hear that soundbite.
At the end of the Sandor Martin fight, at the end of the Sandor Martin fight, everyone heard it and everyone started writing about it the following day. I know I did. I wrote an article about it. And once again, it's like when you hear him, when you see him in the ring, guys, these are prize fighters. They're all brimming with confidence or they wouldn't do it. James, am I wrong about this?
Nope, not in that instance. And I
Just
got
because
Teo, who had a recent comment here not that long ago.
just because someone shows confidence, does that mean that it's real? Just because Adrien Broner goes into the ring and he feels confident against Manny Pacquiao, does that translate into all the other intangibles? Just
Yes,
because
academic. Now, once again, no, confidence doesn't always equate to, hey, you're gonna win or you're gonna have success in the ring, and that's the case in Adrien Broner. That was now. Let me give you a story. Right, I remember covering Mike Alvarado versus Ruslan Provodnikov in Denver, Colorado. Right, and I saw Roy Jones, and he was a part of the HBO broadcast, and I was there press row. And like between fights, I went up to go talk to Roy. And I said, Roy, you've got a fight scheduled in Russia. What are you doing? I said, you know what? You're your first ballot Hall of Famer. You're arguably the greatest to have ever done it. In your prime, you were untouchable. Why are you still doing this? You have nothing to prove to anyone. You've already accomplished everything. You're the only junior middleweight to have ever captured the heavyweight crown. Why are you still doing this? And I told him just like that. Like, it hurt me, man, to see him is still in the ring. And he goes, hey, man, you see that guy over there? The guy I'm working with? I said, yeah, Jim Lampley. What do you think of him? I said, he's the greatest to have ever done it. He is the best. He is the very best. And he's someone who I kind of model my style after. And he goes, so you don't ask him to stop because he's gotten to a certain age. Why are you asking me to stop when I can still do it at the highest level? And I'm thinking the whole time, but Roy, you can't. Of course, I'm not going to tell him that.
Right.
Okay, so in his mind, he is, even though he's been knocked out several times up to that point, he still is brimming with confidence and truly believes he is still Superman, like Adrien Broner. On Friday night, did you hear his post-fight interview?
yes, but
can't get it. American, Mexican.
Now, once again,
you're comparing.
Hold on. Is that the reality though? AB called, like, I will say this, boy, that dude is entertaining. And after the fight, he called out all the title holders, including Retardo. Is that what he called him?
Yeah.
Rolly Romero, Retardo. Oh, dude, once again, he's comedy, man. But let me just say, at this juncture of his career, Retardo would whoop his ass. Okay, that's that. Teofimo isn't there yet, guys. Teofimo is 25 years old. He's still at the apex of his athletic gifts. Guys, don't misconstrue being in a difficult style matchup with having lost it and not being able to compete at the elite level. Because we just saw last night that he is very capable of defeating anyone at 140. And that includes Regis. That includes Subriel Matias. I'm not saying that he would beat them, but it wouldn't be a one-sided mismatch like all of you guys seem to think.
It wouldn't be a one-sided mismatch. The thing about it is that, you know, for me, when it comes to Teofimo Lopez, it's almost more of like, give him the stage, give him the biggest stage, and he'll perform like, you know, he's one of the best fighters out there. Like, he wants to prove something in that particular sense, you know. So, you know, I think in this aspect, when he went up against Josh Taylor, he's like, hey, this is the big stage. I'm going up against, you know, who many feel is like the top guy at the 140-pound division. This is just like me going up against Vasyl Lomachenko, who they regarded as the top guy at 135. And so it's like, I'm going to show y'all that I'm the better fighter. I'm going to prove to y'all that I'm the better fighter. And that's what he did here in this particular stage.
That's it. You know, I will say this, James, to support your point. He seems to thrive off of being the underdog and having that monkey on his back, right? He loves that. He loves proving people wrong. And that's part of what motivates him. So when he's the favorite, when he's riding high, he doesn't seem to get the most of himself. Mm-hmm. And look, I will say this. It's going to be interesting if he doesn't retire and if he doesn't take a healthy time away from the sport. because that's what he needs right now. That's what he needs. So it's going to be interesting. I will say this.
Why does he need it?
Why does he need it?
Yeah.
Well, he stated that he needs it. And a fighter always knows when he needs a healthy time away from the sport. No one else can tell a fighter that.
Why do you think he needs it, though?
I don't. I'm just going off of what he said.
Well, he did say in his post-fight with, I think it was, what was it, Bernardo Asuna, that, he still has, some things that he got to deal with. You know what I'm saying? He got, the big thing, with the whole family stuff that he got to go through and everything like that.
You know what? That's you know what, James? That's a very good point. Yeah, I'm sorry. As you were, sir. Go ahead.
And for me, that's kind of like huge for him because, he like that, like having his son or not having his son with him, that's really
everything. Just ask Jamal Charlo.
Yeah, that really gets to him. So
look, I don't care how strong. I don't care how strong of a fighter you think you are, brother. A woman can bring you to your knees. I mean, just dude, then this has been the case since the beginning of time. Just look at the story of Samson and Delilah. Well, I don't care how badass you think you are, brother. A woman can bring you to your knees and make you sobbing like a little bitch. That is my apologies. I don't mean to cuss on your show, man. My apologies.
Well,
but
I was gonna say, hey, as Zion Williamson. I mean, oops, my bad. But we're gonna have a guest on here. His Lord's on the building.
What's up?
Hey,
what's up? Y'all can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly,
man.
Sir.
Okay, man. What's up with all this Teofimo slander? I'm not with it, man. What's up with all this Teofimo slander?
Look, it's armchair quarterbacks not able to accept that they were dead wrong about these picks, and I don't understand why. Guys, don't take it personally. It is what it is. You rolled with this entire mental midget narrative, and it was dead wrong. It was way off the mark. Now, once again, he and his dad are buffoons, and they say the most absurd things at times. But make no mistake about it, guys, it doesn't deter from their abilities. Now, and once again, this is not exclusive to Teofimo Lopez. Just listen to Regis Prograis. He sounds like a male version of Clarissa Shields.
Well, speaking of Clarissa Shields, she had a couple things to say in reference to this event last night.
Oh, jeez.
But we'll table that for a little.
No. Let's hear that, brother. Come on. You opened up that can of worms. Let's go.
I want to make a point about that though. Just because Teo has the ability. So first of all, I was happy that Teo won, and I was actually rooting for Teo. Let me be clear about that. But that still doesn't take away from. Let me ask you this, Joseph, and then I'm gonna get in the monologue after you answer. But
before you go into that, can I ask you a question, Boxing Acronym? Can I ask you a question?
Sure, let's go.
Did you watch Teo versus Kambosos?
Yes.
Did you see a man that quit or lost confidence of himself in any sense of that fight? Did you see that?
I just brought that up, and I just made that case, and absolutely not. He floored Kambosos late in that fight, never stopped trying, even though he should have been in the hospital instead of in the ring.
The motherfucker has some fucking, I don't know what the disease is, but it starts with a P. But he has some shit that I know that fucks up your breathing. And you can tell he wasn't expected to go the long haul by how he came out. He was trying to knock him out in the first couple of seconds. You can tell he knew he wasn't able to go to 4-12. And he stood there and quit. He still knocked him down late. You feel me? And if he didn't blow the 12th round, we probably get a draw. He walk away with his titles. If we're gonna be real, it wasn't a wipeout the way people remember. It was a very close fight, bro.
It was a split decision.
I'm gonna go and watch the fight again because I actually don't remember the flow of that fight. But what I will say, in other fights of me watching Teo, what I get from Teo is if Teo is not in the front running position and you press him to a point to where you make him second guess his ability to land those one punch big shots. Let
Did
me
you see
finish.
round 12 against
Let me finish. Let me
Lomachenko?
finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Oh gosh.
You make him quit. Let me finish. You make him question his ability to land those one punch big shots, and he can't land that first line of defense. Tio questions himself.
Oh,
and
geez.
He is
Academic.
mentally.
Wait
He
a
is
minute.
mentally. He is mentally a different fighter. He's
Lom-
mentally a
Lom-
different fighter. Let me finish. He's
No,
mentally.
dude. I really
Yes.
don't want you to
He's
finish because
mentally.
it's nonsense, brother.
He's mentally a different fighter
Oh, jeez.
when you do allow him and he can't get past that first. You can't get past that first line of defense.
Academic,
That's what I've noticed.
Hold on, Academic. Did you watch last night's fight in its entirety?
Yes, I did.
Well, then how can you still roll with this nonsensical narrative?
And
Brother,
the point I wanted to ask you before Zoe walked in.
Hold on. Josh Taylor dominated the first 3 rounds of that fight. The first quarter of a 12-round championship fight, Josh Taylor was whooping his ass. And he was making things very uncomfortable for Teofimo Lopez. He was pressing the action, getting him on the ropes, landing the better shots, throwing greater volume. He was overwhelming Teofimo Lopez. And Teofimo, to his credit,
true talent tells over time.
Exactly. He never lost confidence. You never saw him get flat you never saw him waver or lose confidence.
Exactly. And you want to know why?
Hold on. He stayed relaxed. He stayed calm and composed. And as soon as his eyes got adjusted to the timing, rhythm, movement of his opponent, he took over that fight.
You want to know why he didn't get discouraged?
Oh boy, let's hear your theory.
Because drum roll.
Oh Jesus.
Josh Taylor is limited. That's why he didn't get discouraged.
Okay, here's one. Here's one. Round 10.
Go ahead, Zoe.
Yeah, round 10 and round 11 against Lomachenko, he got his ass fucking whooped. He got mollywhopped, and look how he responded in round 12. So
he
that's
dug down in that fight. He did. He dug down in that fight.
So what is your point then, Academic?
In those 2 rounds that Zoe just mentioned against Lomachenko,
oh jeez,
he questioned himself, and in that fight, he did respond how he needed to respond. He sat down on that bench at the end of round 11, and then he asked himself, how does he want to go home? And he gave the effort that he needed to give. But what I will say, what we know about Lomachenko, let me finish. What we know about Lomachenko is no different than what Lomachenko did in this last fight, which is no different than what Lomachenko does in all his big fights. Lomachenko thinks he knows better. You said this yourself, Joseph, than the judges, and he coasts in the last round. Lomachenko did that against Tio. Lomachenko did that against Devin.
No. He didn't do that against Teofimo Lopez. He did that against Devin Haney because he thought he was way up on the scorecard. Because let's just be honest. In the Haney fight, he beat Haney from pillar to post in rounds 10 and 11. And unfortunately, he thought that equated to him being way ahead in the scorecards when that's not how you score a prize fight. Okay. Now that's not the same as Teofimo Lopez Lomachenko. He tried to close the show, understanding that he was behind on the scorecards. Lomachenko did. And the reason why he didn't, because Teofimo Lopez punched that bully in the mouth.
He landed 32 punches. He hurt him to the body, dog. He fought him with a body shot, dog. Like he 32 punches, I think he landed.
Y'all know y'all saying what I'm saying.
No, hold on. Now that is a far cry from what we saw in the Haney Lomachenko 12th round. That is not even the same. So look. Now that should tell you that this is a guy who he's already been through that going into the Josh Taylor fight. So this is a guy who's brimming with confidence, understanding that, well, you know what? Even if I'm losing the fight at a certain point, I believe in myself, and I know that I can regain the momentum and punch this bully in the mouth. And that's exactly what he did last night turning Josh Taylor.
And given the scorecards, he had to do that in order to get 2 of those scorecards.
No. That's what I'm saying, dude. Going into the 7th round, I had Josh Taylor ahead 4 rounds to 2. And Teofimo Lopez swept the entire back half of the fight. I scored it 8 rounds to 4. I scored it 8 rounds to 4 for Teofimo Lopez.
Yo, let me play armchair psychologist real quick. I think the reason behind the Teofimo slander is because these people
they're
are
egos.
Tank fans.
They don't want to admit that they're wrong.
They're Tank fans. They paint narrative as any potential threat to Tank. They paint narrative as these people being mentally.
I don't agree.
I think they do it with Shakur. They do it with Devin Haney. They do it with everybody.
I think closer to reality is that all of these guys on YouTube, they truly believe that they're experts. And I know this firsthand because, you know, James, and you know this, if there's something that someone's saying is wrong, I'll send them a private message and say, hey, that's not the reality. This is what really happened. And even though I already know this and this is for their benefit, James, how do they usually react? They don't like being corrected. And it's their ego. They don't like being corrected. Why? Because they're arrogant and they think they're a lot smarter than they actually are. They don't let it's like, wait a minute. I'm telling you this for your benefit. I already know this shit. So why are you getting mad at me, dude? But I get that a lot. I get that a lot, man. James, don't I?
Yeah. Yep.
So I feel like I'm in the middle of whatever is going on with other people versus me having my own opinion. You know, you being on this show with me, Joseph, you know,
of course.
I could, you know, like I get it. I understand exactly what you're saying, but have you ever heard me say an opinion without having at least some thought of a justifiable reason for my opinion?
No. That's not what I'm saying. You're truly, you think about everything before it comes out of your mouth, and I respect that, and I respect your opinion. But I think what it is, and you're not alone in this aspect. I think everyone who rolled with this narrative, they made too much of it and completely forgot about how naturally athletically gifted Teofimo Lopez truly was. And when watching tape, I saw that this was going to be a real problem for the 35-year-old Josh Taylor. And that ended up being the biggest factor in determining the winner,
Joseph,
not the mindset.
Which is no different than what I just said, Joseph. Josh Taylor is limited. That's exactly what I just said. I said it in more blatant terms. James, when I called this fight and I said I don't know much about Josh Taylor, what did I say about Teofimo Lopez in terms of everybody?
Maybe it's because you're not specific in saying he's limited. Limited how?
I don't think he's limited at all. I think he's a very well. He could box from the outside. He has a nasty inside game. I don't think he's limited. I just think once Teofimo figure out the angle of his jab and neutralize his left hand, you feel me? And then the athleticism,
his
the
right
spin,
hand.
you feel me? Like,
Go back and listen to the first part of this thing, because I'm, you know, it's like I gotta repeat myself. But I said it earlier. James gave me a nice 10-minute monologue.
Yeah, but you know, my thing with you know, I was saying in this fight, specifically after those first few rounds, was that Taylor was, you know, doing a couple of things where, you know, I thought that he would have been better off, you know, for as far as like foot positioning is concerned, as far as like being a bigger fighter, being able to, you know, have the ability to cut off the ring, those type of things he wasn't, you know, doing there. And that, you know, kind of like gave the ability for Teofimo Lopez to do what he does. Now, as far as like Teofimo's level of skill, I mean, that's always there. That's been there, you know, and they kind of like brought that up during this fight, is that, you know, you can't underestimate his IQ in the ring. Yeah. You know, and so that is what you saw, you know, in this particular fight. But then, you know, once he got comfortable, it was like, you know what, man, you know, this guy Josh Taylor really can't touch me here, man. You know, he had that mentality,
Yep.
but still, kind of like kept things, patient where he's not too wild, where he could get caught with a crazy shot or something like that, unless if he just felt like, you know what, let me just do this. If something happens, something happens. So that's how you got to the point where he was like lunging out with the lead right hand with his feet off of the canvas. Like he really don't do that.
No.
In a fight of that level. But he did that on a couple of occasions.
Yeah. I will say this, where academic is correct, where Josh Taylor is limited, James, is that, yeah, he's never been an effective aggressor. And if you force him out of the pocket and you start moving laterally, which Teofimo Lopez started to calm down, and he started to use his footwork to his advantage, forcing Josh Taylor out of the pocket. He caught him with several, I think it was like the 4th or 5th round, caught him with several beautiful short left hooks as he was coming in, that beautiful right uppercut as he was coming in. And that forced Josh Taylor to think twice about just barging through the front door, right? And it changed the entire landscape of the fight. It turned Josh Taylor into a tentative fighter. Couple that now with him being 35 years of age, killing himself to make 140 pounds. And you got a front runner who played his entire hand in the first third of the fight. And Teo took over as a result. But I will say this, the first third of the fight, Josh Taylor fought a hell of a fight and took it right to Teofimo Lopez. And I thought it was working beautifully. Yeah. Unfortunately, at 35, and you know what? When you punch that bully in the mouth like Teofimo Lopez did, and keep in mind, I knew this was going to be a problem. Teofimo Lopez has explosive speed and power, where you combine speed with power. Yeah. And if you don't see that coming like Josh Taylor, it hurts. Those are the shots that hurt you the most. Like, James, you've been in the ring. Have you ever been hit with relaxed tissue? Yeah, it hurts. It hurts a lot more than if you see a punch coming and you brace for it, right? Yeah, but when you're walking in and don't see a sharp counter, those are multiplied by 2 or 3 times. They hurt you a lot more than a normal shot, right, that you see coming.
Joseph, you in here proving my point, buddy.
I'm sorry, I didn't know what your point was, other than you're saying that Teofimo Lopez is a mental midget. And I don't think I proved your point.
In the Josh Taylor being limited, that point.
No, once again, I could be the first one to tell you that. He's never been an effective aggressor. But his modus operandi in this fight was to be the bully, go out and force Teofimo Lopez, put him on the defensive, get him in that frame of mind, make the fight uncomfortable for him. Yeah. And it worked during the first third of the fight until he got hit with a very sharp counter. And there's no shame in that. Okay, there's no shame in that. Like, if you're thinking that I'm saying that Josh Taylor's limited because he caught a sharp counter and it forced him to think twice about barging through the front door, that happens to everybody. That's not exclusive to Josh Taylor.
I was saying, for the very points that you mentioned, when you objectively said the 2 or 3 points that he was limited in terms of his ability to needing to be square right there in front of you, and then somebody else using lateral movement, and then you mentioned other point, but
reference to effective aggression.
Yeah, he's never been an effective aggressor, and you look at all of his best performances. Like, Aridis Prograis is a counterpuncher. He made the mistake of taking the fight to Josh Taylor, and he's not an effective aggressor either. Now, these guys are prolific counterpunchers by trade, and so they're at their best when they have a more aggressive-minded opponent coming at them, and especially Josh Taylor. He is the better fighter on the inside, and he showed that in the beginning of the fight against Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo was like, no, I'm going to use lateral movement. I'm going to force him out of the pocket, and I'm going to catch him coming in. And credit to him, it worked. And he ended up taking over the fight, sticking to that plan of moving laterally, consistently turning Josh Taylor and setting traps for him as he's coming in.
And
JR.
you didn't really see an adjustment there from Josh Taylor. And before Zoe got in here, he brought up something in reference to Ben Davis. And Zoe, you wanted to talk about that?
No, I just feel like having Ben Davidson in his corner, it would have been. I feel like he would have been better prepared. He would have had a better performance. I just feel like I didn't see him getting much adjustments from his corner. I just seen him cheering on him and telling him a good job. You feel me? I didn't see them telling him what to do, to vary his jab. You feel me? Get him the inside more.
I agree. So I think Ben Davison would have had him fight a more disciplined fight, a more patient effort, trying to bait Teofimo Lopez to adopt the role of aggressor, understanding that that's not his forte. And we saw that against Sandor Martin. Yeah. You force Teo out of the pocket and adopt the role of aggressor, he's not as effective. And so Josh Taylor played into his strengths, but it was effective the first third of the fight. He was doing a masterful job of taking it to Teofimo Lopez, making everything very uncomfortable for him.
Yeah,
like I said, I had
throwing the jab. You know what I'm saying? At least he was opening with the jab on that instead of coming towards Teofimo Lopez and then being hesitant. But like you said, I mean, after those counter punches came in the fourth round, when you see Josh Taylor like move and he was like getting to Teofimo Lopez, and Lopez was like backing up to the ropes. But the thing was, Josh Taylor just didn't throw any punches. So all Teofimo had to do was throw one or two punches and then get out of the pocket, and that's pretty much how.
And did you see him after that in the second part of the fight, the second half of the fight? He would stop right there at mid-range. Yep. That is a huge mistake when you're fighting someone with much better reflexes, much better hand speed. He could see everything coming from a mile away after that, and it was checkmate. Like I said, I defy anyone to go back and look at the second half of the fight and try to find a round to give to Josh Taylor. You can't. You can't. Once again, I had it scored, and I was watching the fight with Lee Cleveland, right, from FightSaga.com. And we both had it scored 4-2 going into the second half of the fight in favor of Josh Taylor. And that proved to be, well, two of the judges saw it the exact same way.
Well, it was one, I think, right? Or was it? Or did they?
Well, two of the judges had it scored 7-5 for Teofimo.
So wait, Joseph, what was your scorecard?
8-4 for Teofimo. I had him score. I had him a clean sweep in the second half of the fight, but I had Josh Taylor up 4-2 going into the second half.
Okay, here's how I had it. I had 4 swing rounds, and I gave 3 of them to Teo. So I had round 1 Taylor, round 2 Teo, round 3 Teo, round 4 Teo, round 5 Teo, round 6 Taylor, round 7 Teo, round 8 Teo, round 9 Teo, round 10 Taylor, round 11 Teo, but round 3, 4, 6, and 8 were all swing rounds.
Yeah,
so I don't mind. I don't mind the 115, 113.
Yeah, I counted. See, I don't mind that either because I counted 2 swing rounds, and I gave those both to Josh Taylor, admittedly, right? And so that's why I have no problem either with the 10-2 verdict that some fans have, 9-3 verdict some fans have. I have no problem with that either. I thought the best that you could possibly score that for Taylor was 7-5 in favor of Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah,
that's the best possible scenario for Taylor, and that's how 2 of the judges saw it. I have no problem with any of the scorecards though last night. I thought they all nailed it.
I want to add a point to that. I didn't score the fight because I saw Teo winning pretty easy against a limited fighter.
Well.
I ain't gonna lie. I was the way I was scoring, even though because the swing round, round 12 was a big round to me because I had so many swing rounds. I'm like, shit, round 12 was a very clutch round for me.
You had them swing rounds. Yeah,
look. James, I have a real problem though with academics consistently saying a limited fighter. Like honestly, you're not giving the lineal champion nearly enough credit. Guys, this isn't Rolly Romero we're talking about.
This is a legitimate fighter.
Josh Taylor's proven himself
Well,
right?
like,
Against who?
wait, hold on.
Oh my
Against who?
gosh,
Let
dude!
me
wait a minute.
preface this.
Oh,
Hold on, Joe.
go ahead, James. Your show,
Let
brother.
me
Go ahead.
preface this by saying that remember, you and Zoe weren't in here for Boxing Academics monologue. Now, if you listen to his monologue, then you would kind of like see where he's going at in reference to Josh Taylor. But it is more of an overall critique of the super lightweight division at the time that Josh Taylor was able to, get his.
I'm not taking that. I'm not accepting that. I'm not accepting that.
Look.
That's where it's coming
Academic.
There's fighters you hype up with lesser resumes than what this guy did at 140 in his undisputed run. I'm not accepting that.
Look. He's got a big victory over Regis Prograis, who most fans believe is the man at 140, right? So what are you saying then? What exactly are you saying? Are you saying that a guy like Subriel Matias isn't limited? Are you saying that Regis Prograis isn't limited?
He beat Ramirez and fuck them scorecards. That fight wasn't
not.
close.
I'm not saying that.
Wait. Are you calling now? Once again,
do you want me to say what I'm saying?
Most fighters are not Shakur Stevenson. Most fighters are not Terence Crawford. Most fighters are not Canelo Alvarez. Those guys are complete fighters. It's very difficult to find any kind of limitation with any of those guys. Okay, most fighters are not them. That's why they're atop pretty much everyone's pound for pound list at this time. Okay, most guys aren't Gervonta Tank Davis. It's very difficult to find a chink in the armor. Okay, so when you say, oh, he's a limited fighter, well, you just described pretty much every fighter in boxing at this time. So I don't know exactly what your point is.
My point is, among the limited fighters, Josh Taylor was less limited than those other limited fighters.
Bro, listen. I'm not gonna lie.
James making me laugh, man. Come on, stop making me laugh, James.
Look at a person like Jack Catterall. Like Jack Catterall, he came to America. Jack Catterall came to America. He got like a little American style to him. You feel me? With the little shorter roll. You feel me? Like he was beating. I had him winning the fight up until Josh Taylor bit down, caught him with a body shot, and put up a clutch shit. You gonna tell me Jack Catterall's not a good fighter, bro?
Jack Catterall's an excellent fighter, but he's a one-trick pony, right?
Yeah,
and a one-trick pony is called what? What's a one-trick pony called?
Look, this is
if you had to encapsulate it.
This is my issue.
I'll tell you what he is.
Limited.
Limited. Of course.
Let me tell you what's grinding my gears.
Once again, you just described 99% of the fighters in boxing at this time. There's a reason why. I'll say it again. There's a reason why Shakur is Shakur. There's a reason why TC Bud is Bud. There's a reason why Canelo is Canelo. There's a reason why Tyson Fury is Tyson Fury. Guys, it's very difficult.
I agree with you on that, Joseph.
I need to get this off.
I agree with you on that, Joseph. I agree with you on that.
This off. Hold on, let me get this off because this is not even. This is directed towards you, but it's more people on the whole because I hate seeing this shit. This shit happens all the time. This shit pisses me off, bro. I didn't listen to Boxing Source. You done hyped up people with weaker resumes than what Josh Taylor is, and you call him Josh Taylor limited. He beat fucking Regis Prograis. He beat fucking Ivan Berg. He beat Ohari Davey. He beat Jake Catterall. Nigga, you hype up fucking Tank beating Rolly and fucking Ryan Garcia and shit. You had that shit up against those three clans.
Yeah, but
look, man.
He meant me. He didn't mean you. He didn't mean you. He meant me.
No. Of course, I know. But look, there's no shame in hyping up a complete fighter like Gervonta Tank Davis, who doesn't get nearly enough credit for being the complete fighter that he is. James, tell me the glaring deficiency that Gervonta Davis currently has in the ring. You can't.
I can tell you a deficiency.
Let's hear it. That he doesn't fight the people that fans want him to fight. That's about it. But I'm talking about.
Do you want me to say the deficiency or not, or you want to say it?
Dude, I dare you to. I dare you.
You know that just because these fighters that you name who are exceptional fighters, that doesn't mean that they don't have limitations. One thing that would be a problem for Tank is a fighter who throws more punches. So a limitation
Oh,
for
really?
Tank,
Really?
a limitation for Tank, guy, come on, a limitation for Tank is the fact that his punch output is not as high as some other guys. And if
No,
he did
dude.
find a fighter that threw more punches and had just as much skill, he would have the same problem, which is the same problem that Canelo has.
Tank got too many mental
Hold on.
lapses, bro.
You just said this. Okay, if you find a puncher or you find a fighter that throws more punches, higher activity level, throws in greater volume, but with the same skill, dude, you're gonna find a unicorn before you find that. Because a guy who lets his hands go as much, he's susceptible receiving a sharp counter. Gervonta knows this. Every punch counts. If someone goes right at Gervonta Davis, letting his hands go with frequent regularity, he's going to be put on his ass. Am I wrong?
Let me say this. If you had,
can I go?
Joseph,
can I go?
Last fight against Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia started throwing combinations, and what
happened
in the second round?
Ryan Garcia's limited. If you had an Errol Spence of his division, if you have an Errol Spence of his division, a guy who is sound, the same thing that's going. This is an exact replica fight that I'm describing. Errol Spence throws 50, 60, 70 punches per round.
More than that at times.
Okay, more than that. Errol Spence, give or take, is defensively responsible.
Look.
Give or take. Let me finish. Errol Spence is, give or take, is defensively responsible. But when you look at Terence Crawford throws 30 punches around, and Terence Crawford sort of waits and sees what you does, and then he lands the big shot. If Terence Crawford don't land a big shot against him, he's going to be down on the rounds because Errol Spence is going to win off of activity and skill.
No.
Joseph,
Dude, listen. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Zoe. You've been waiting patiently, my friend.
Yeah, okay. This is what I'm going to say.
We're gonna have to wrap up the topic here.
Okay. Let me talk. When I look at Tank, okay, this is what I say. I think Tank has way too many defensive mental lapses for a fighter of his caliber. He gets hit a lot. You feel me? Way more than he's supposed to. I know some people say he got great defense. I don't be getting. And I also don't think Tank has much of an inside game. I don't think he's very good in the inside. And I feel like people who could stand the outside and put punches together, like Pedraza, when Pedraza made the mistake of fighting too close, he got his ass whooped. You feel me? When he fought him in the mid-range, he got his ass whooped. When he did have success, he boxed and he had a little bit of lateral movement. He was able to have success against Tank. So I think Tank do have problem with movers, and he has no inside games, like somebody who get physical on the inside game. I know I'm describing Shakur, but you feel me? I know I'm describing Shakur, but you feel me? I do think some other people could replicate that shit at a lower level, though. You feel me? It's whether they can take the punch or not.
Well, I don't know who at a lower level than Shakur could really duplicate that.
No, dude. And look. All I can say is, I really hope, James, that we get to see the rematch with Isaac Cruz, because that's a great fight, and that's a problematic. So? Yes, that is a problematic style matchup. Yeah, it's a
great fight. Yeah.
What do you rank
problematic style matchup for Gervonta Davis?
What do you put? What do you put? Isaac
Who throws activity? You just said my point, Joseph. You just said my point again.
No. Here, listen. That's not it. Hold on. Listen.
Oh, come on, Joseph.
No.
Joseph, give Isaac Cruz a letter grade. Let me get. What's your letter grade for Isaac Cruz?
I would say he's very crude, but here's where he matches up very, very well against Tank Davis. He's got no freaking neck. He can take Gervonta Davis's best shots and keep coming forward, and he's the only guy in the division that can do that. That's why Gervonta Davis broke his hand against that hard noggin that doesn't move.
That's a good point.
I'm not trying to be harsh.
No. I will admit, once again, Isaac Cruz is a very crude fighter, and
who throws a bunch of shots.
No. He doesn't just throw shots. He's very crafty defensively. He's able to parry. Like if you go back and look at that first fight, He's
Yeah, I
parrying a
don't think they
lot
give
of the
him enough
shots.
credit.
Huh? Go
I
ahead,
don't
James.
think they give Cruz enough credit for that.
No,
How
dude.
many shots did what's the name throw in that
listen.
fight?
No, listen. Going into that fight, once again, and I hate to point this out consistently, but it's the truth. Now, going into that fight, everyone thought that he was going to make short work of the very crude Isaac Cruz. I said, guys, I just spoke with Sean Gibbons about this. Make no mistake about it. I've studied Isaac Cruz. He's a crude fighter at times, yes, but he's he's deceptively craftier than most people give him credit.
Yo,
And
Joseph,
I said, plus, you can't hurt him. I said, guys, don't be surprised if this fight goes the distance. Everyone laughed at me.
Joseph, you know what Isaac Cruz remind me of? Isaac Cruz is Jose Luis Castillo if Jose Luis Castillo suck.
Oh, no. Jose Luis Castillo was probably the best inside fighter.
I didn't say he sucked. No, I didn't say Castillo sucked. I didn't say Castillo
Hold on.
sucked.
Here, listen. He's the best inside fighter. He was the best inside fighter since Julio Cesar Chavez. Oh, yep. And
I argue James Toney, but whatever.
No. Ooh, boy, James Toney was the best defensive fighter outside of Floyd Mayweather Jr. Look, James Toney was the total package. He's an all-time great.
Yes.
And
when you're not facing a person who can land quick shots like Hall of Famer that you just talked about earlier, Roy Jones.
Yeah, Roy Jones. Yeah. Look, I will say this. It's a shame, and it was almost sinful that it took the writers as long as they did to vote James Toney into the Hall of Fame. Juice brings this up. He says, Tank did not break his hand against Isaac Cruz. Tank re-aggravated a hand injury he experienced in training leading into that fight. Be that as it may, the hard noggin of Isaac Cruz didn't help.
Yeah.
Look, once again, that guy has
what? How many times? I don't even know, man. I can't even see if he's been knocked down. He's lost twice, but he hasn't been knocked out. Of course, he hasn't been knocked out.
Look, he's a very crude fighter, reminiscent of a tiny version of Marcos Maidana. It's very difficult to anticipate where those punches are coming, but he is much more defensively sound than Marcos Maidana.
Which Maidana?
Hold on.
Robert Garcia's Maidana? Or which one?
Listen for a second. I'll answer your question. So Marcos Maidana, he doesn't have the defensive prowess or the chin of Isaac Cruz. Isaac Cruz, you cannot hurt this guy. You can outbox him if you're a great mover. Obviously, Gervonta Davis just showed that. And you could argue that when he fought the Argentine, who I don't remember his name, but the Argentine he fought on Showbox, you could make a case for him outboxing Isaac Cruz early in his career. But I will say this, you can't hurt Isaac Cruz. You can't hurt him. The only chance you have is going to his body. No one likes shots against his body. And trust me, if they do have a rematch, what I strongly think they will later this year, you're going to see Gervonta Davis put together a stronger body attack, right? That's just mine. But I will say this. Yeah, guys, I love that matchup. I would love to see it again. And I will say this also. When academic, and I know you have to run, but looking at Errol Spence Jr., dude, you're not giving him enough credit as well of being a more complete fighter than most people realize. Now, once again, he sets everything up with that beautiful lead southpaw hand. That right hand of his, he's got the counterpunch a killer. He disrupts the timing and rhythm of all of his opponents. Mm-hmm. Go watch the Mikey Garcia fight. Go watch the Danny Garcia fight. Go watch the Yordenis Ugas fight, and you tell me what wins that fight. Is his volume punching? No, it's his lead hand. He wins those fights with that intelligent volume lead hand alone.
The thing is, what you're saying, you can't say one without the other. Yes, I didn't speak on the nuance because I was saying that main point. But yes, he starts to fight off with his lead hand, but the lead hand allows him to throw the volume. It allows him to throw the other shots. It allows him to throw the body shots. It allows him to throw the hooks. And that's why he throws 60, 70 punches around, because he's jabbing and able to get those other shots off. You're correct, but that's the nuance behind it that I didn't say. But I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. Yes, I think he's gonna beat him because he got the jab. Yeah.
Well, going on that topic, wanted to bring up the whole thing with Spence and Crawford. They're starting off their press tour, but one particular person that's on this panel said this last week that Errol Spence is a bootleg Terry Norris and Bud Crawford is a Walmart version of Barbie Hagler. That's from
Chingao, dude. Chingao. I'll tell you what, that's funny right there, man. But Chingao, don't be discounting how great both fighters are, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying
this is a special.
I'm not saying they're not great. I'm not saying they're not great. I'm just saying
a special matchup, guys. Spence-Crawford is a special matchup for a reason, and this is why everyone's been clamoring for it. I will say this though. Go ahead, James. I'm sorry.
I think that there are more people or more fans excited about this fight than some may realize. Like, I know that, we kind of talked about this fight multiple times or whatever it is and how successful it could be or whatnot. Like, I'm seeing feedback from this fight more than I saw from, other fights that, people may have considered to be, very big. I think that, this is, I'm not going to put it up to like, a Mayweather Pacquiao level type of thing. But as far as like, overall like anticipation for this fight, it is very large. I'm telling you, it's
JR, this is I didn't coin this phrase, it was coined by Lefty, but this is the Black Super Bowl.
Yeah, he did say that. Hey,
this is,
you know what though, man? I can't stand this. Why on earth? Yeah, and I understand Lefty. He's a good dude, but why the hell are you going to bring race into this? The Black Super Bowl, man. Just call it the Super Bowl of boxing. Damn it!
Nah, you know why? You know why we say that?
No. I'm going to say this because, dude, puro Mexicano. I'm not black, and to me, this is the Super Bowl of boxing. You don't have to bring race into this shit.
But here's what I'm saying. Here's why I say that. Here's why I understand, and I disagree with Lefty in a lot of shit he says. But the reason why I agree with this particular point is like, I do feel like historically these big companies, these big promotional companies, don't understand the market, that the black fighter market. I feel like they always underestimate the black market. Like the fact that you put Floyd Mayweather in the pay-per-view with Arturo Gatti and you expect nothing from it. You feel me? And then it did the numbers it did. You feel me?
No, dude. Look. Let's just face facts. That has nothing to do with the black market. That has everything to do with Floyd Mayweather not getting the opportunity to sell tickets or to even have the mainstream and casual audience to be exposed to his, just greatness. Let's just face it, guys. And anyone who's a detractor of Floyd, this is not for you. Close your ears. But Floyd Mayweather can make a very strong case of being the greatest of all time. He is by far the greatest defensive fighter I'll ever see in my lifetime.
Oh,
but no. Here, let's just be honest. Yep. When you talk about numbers, though,
he's my second favorite fighter, by the way.
No. You can be your favorite, and I'm not saying favorite. I'm just saying it is what it is. He is one of the greatest of all time, bar none. And
when you talk about numbers,
defensive fighter. Now, when you talk about numbers, though, let's just be honest. That Gatti Mayweather pay-per-view didn't do all that well.
Right.
Okay, it didn't do well, guys. Floyd was the B-side for a reason. Okay? Even though
they didn't expect 300.
Huh?
They didn't expect what it did, though. They didn't expect him to do what it did, though.
Of course they did. That's why main events put it on pay-per-view.
Yeah,
and why?
Because like you said, it was Gotti is the A side, Atlantic City. He was the
guy. Huge fan favorite. And once again, you've got to have quality of opposition matters when you're trying to sell pay-per-view. Just ask Canelo and DAZN. How did that Ryder pay-per-view perform?
So you saying they expected to do bad or expected to do good?
They expected to do what it did.
Which is, you're saying bad.
I don't know if you can call that bad.
It did not. 300,000 for that time was great.
Not great because it was a much healthier pay-per-view
How
model.
many buys did it do?
I
Like
don't remember,
300,000.
like 275,000,
Yeah,
300,000,
but
something like that.
what I'm saying it exceeded expectation though, and I'm saying the reason. I'm saying it exceeded.
Look, guys, look. Let's just face it. He didn't become the overwhelming mainstream attraction until he got the opportunity to shine on 24/7 HBO and fought Oscar De La Hoya. Because, guys, that pay-per-view with Zab Judah, it didn't do well. That pay-per-view with Carlos Baldemir didn't do well, guys. Okay? That's it. But I will say this, that has nothing to do with the black community. Not now, James. Hey, brother, when is a black fighter going to get his big break in the fight game? That's how ridiculous that sounds. That's a ridiculous sentiment, and I wish people would quit bringing that shit up. It's nonsense. James, I'm going to ask you again. When is a black fighter finally going to get their big opportunity in the fight game?
Hey, it's about the business, and if you can't sell,
exactly,
then you can't sell.
Exactly. That's nonsense,
Man,
guys.
Listen. Like I said, I feel like you guys are. This particular fight, there's a lot of people from our community who's interested in this fight who wouldn't be interested in Canelo versus Triple G. I'm just saying that is the people who's driving.
Hey, I understand that. I mean,
the Tank fans. You think those Tank fans? You think those Tank fans care about any nuances of boxing or anything? They don't give a fuck. They just most of these are just. Well, okay, but whatever. This is uncomfortable for certain people, so I'm not even gonna get into that. But
I mean,
that's how
you're saying it allows
here, brother. We're all adults here, man.
You're saying it allows black casuals to embrace the fight because it's two black mainstream fighters, and it hadn't been like that in a long time. That's what you're saying.
Terence Crawford
and Joseph saying that shit. Look, they the two best fighters.
Terence Crawford, Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, all these people. What have they all been doing to promote their fights lately? What they've been doing? It's been $1 million worth of game. Breakfast Club. You feel me? Kai Kanat. You feel me? They're attacking black media. You feel me? You gonna tell me they're not doing that for a reason? That's who the people who they send they fight to.
Look, fighter
they're trying to go through the methods of seeing how they could bring the most people to watch their fights.
Yep.
And if you're not being visible in certain markets, like you said, like Breakfast Club or $1 million worth of game, or what's the thing?
I'm an athlete.
With the athletes. Athletes. You know what I'm saying? If you're not, on these particular channels, then you might not get this certain demographic to see when your fight's gonna be or when you're fighting or whatever it is. So if you hit those particular shows, then you're saying like, hey, this is me, this is my face, this is what I do, this is coming up, I'm gonna be doing this to get them interested in that. But if they're not visible in those markets, you're not going to see those people being interested or watching those fights, no matter who it is. It could be Canelo, it could be Caleb Plant, it could be Errol Spence, it could be Shakur Stevenson, or anything.
JR.
Not in these particular shows.
Yeah, when the last time you walked into a barber shop that cut specific hair and you just sat there and then the whole barber shop is fucking talking about boxing during the fucking NBA finals?
Let me ask you something, Zoe.
Outside of Wilder, it probably don't happen.
Let me ask you something, Zoe.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something, Zoe. What you're doing is then you're setting, I'm going to use your verbiage, your people, right? A certain demographic up for failure if this fight doesn't produce. That's what you're doing, and it's wrong. Okay, just I'll tell you what's more accurate is stating that, well, this is a largely diehard demographic matchup that doesn't really appeal to the mainstream and casual audience like Garcia Gervonta Davis did. Okay, that's the reality of it. Now, so what they have to do in promoting this event, they have to try and find as many avenues as they can to promote this fight to get mainstream outlets to cover this event.
I'm just hoping they put it in the theater,
That's
man.
the reality. It has nothing
they're
to
gonna
do
do
with
that.
it has nothing to do with black, Mexicano, Asian, whatever. It's you've got to tap into the mainstream and casual demographic. That's what's going to make money in this fight, not anything else.
What's your prediction, pay-per-view wise?
Between 400 and 500,000, maybe 5-6.
Damn, that's
Which
it.
is good. That's pretty good for now, right?
Look, when you consider that both men took, and I told you this a long time ago, and you already knew this. Steven said, look, I've got $20 million and I'm willing to spend on this main event. Okay?
That's his breaking point.
That's it. And that's my breaking point. Anything more than that, you guys can get to stepping and go call up BLK Prime again. Okay? And guess what? Both men are getting $10 million apiece. Okay, so Steven Espinosa, after doing the research, he's like, yeah, I think we're going to do at least between 500 and 600,000. Obviously, the potential is there to do more, but that's what I'm willing to spend. Anticipating a pay-per-view that does $500,000 to 600,000. They've already done the research, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm not just throwing that number out. I already know this to be true. So does James.
Yep. That's what, Espinosa is pretty much like calculated, and this has been since they started negotiations last year. So,
dude, May of last year. We've been doing this since May of last year.
May of last year. Yeah, that's wild. So I mean, they got to do some work, and like I said, I mean, you got the Spence-Crawford press tour. It starts, Tuesday. It's going to be over in LA first, then New York on Wednesday. And from that point forward, they're going to start pressing, and I know that, like Zoe was mentioning, that $1 million worth of game there, they had Terence Crawford on it, and it's almost at around, like 800K views or something like that, at this point. They're probably going to have something, with Errol Spence or whatnot, too, in different avenues. But listen, like Joseph said, $20 million. So they know what they need in order for this particular event to break even. So they're like, hey, y'all gonna have to put in this work. And so whatever Terence Crawford was talking about a couple of days ago, talking about, oh, I don't need to do that much promotion. This fight should sell itself. Yeah, right, buddy.
Dude, this isn't Pacquiao Mayweather, dude. And once again, that's been the problem all along, hasn't it, James?
Yep, for Terence Crawford, yes, it has.
Yep. This guy, who the hell does he think he is?
Like, come on, but see, and I already had a problem with him getting this guaranteed money and it being to this point. I'm like, come on, man. Like, you know what? What did you say that you said it would be around 500 to 600K?
Yep, I did.
If I crunched the numbers, right, and if it went above that, anything above that, then I'm like, come on, man, you done played what DJ Khaled said. Congratulations, you proved yourself. Like, you got to understand the business and how much you can make off of just having a low guarantee off rip and then getting much on the back end. Like, come on, man. And given where you're at this particular point of your career, you should already be financially set. So it's like, hey, but it is what it is on that sense. And so,
hey, man, I've got JR. I'm sorry. I've got about 10 more minutes before I have to get ready for Coach Gogi's show. But I will say this, guys, a lot of people are calling Munguia versus Sergey Derevyanchenko fight of the year candidate. But I will say this, guys, because of the stakes involved for Haney Lomachenko, that is my fight of the year leader at this point. That was a great elite, that was a great elite level chess match, not two punching bags who had no defense. Come on, guys.
Can I say this?
But Munguia don't got defense.
Can I say this?
That's my point.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yo,
go ahead, Zoe.
If somebody blindfolded me and put me in a helicopter and took me randomly somewhere and then told me to throw an object out the fucking helicopter, it would have hit Munguia flush.
Yeah. Dude, this is a guy who traditionally likes to block punches with his face.
That's funny.
And brother, hey,
That's
now
funny.
once again, this is how you know Sergey Derevyanchenko in his prime would have whooped that ass last
Knocked him
night.
out, bro.
Dude,
Oh my
dude,
God.
how many times? How many times?
I thought he had him in the
Yep.
5th round.
Yep, dude.
Oh.
And think about this. How often did you ever see Derevyanchenko get hit that much, that flush, that frequently? Never. But I will say this: he is the unluckiest. He is the unluckiest fighter on the face of the earth. Once again, I had him. I had him with the lead
Badou
going
Jack.
into round number 12.
He said Badou Jack is
Badou Jack.
more unlucky than.
Wait,
Oh, get out of town, dude.
Joseph, since you about to
He's ready
leave.
to make.
He was world
Joseph,
champ.
since you about to leave.
Champ.
Hold on, he's getting Badou Jack unlucky. He's getting ready to make way more than he's ever
He was
made
unlucky
fighting
earlier in the career.
Saudi
Early in the
Arabia.
career.
Come on,
Early in the career.
Yo,
Early in the
Joseph,
career.
dude.
Joseph,
Yes, sir.
before
Yes,
you
sir,
leave,
Joe.
do you think Big Charlo is looking to cash out one last fight and just get one big fight and cash out and settle to retirement because of everything that he's going through?
You're talking about Big Charlo or his trainer,
Yeah.
Ronnie Shields?
Big Charlo.
Okay, I just gave you guys some insight. You didn't even catch it.
He didn't catch it.
No, and that's
about to
just
mention
that's for you and I, James, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But I will say this: no, Charlo, he believes and he understands where he's at now. Okay, all the momentum he had 2 years ago in being the front runner to fight Canelo Alvarez and everyone banging the drum for that fight. What happened to it? It's gone. He understands that he's got a lot of ground to cover, and he's not willing to leave the sport without gaining that momentum again and getting that huge fight. And that has nothing to do with just riding off into sunset, cashing out. That has everything to do with recognizing your potential in this business. He understands, I want to be the next great Houston, Texas franchise. And he's not prepared to leave the sport until he becomes that. That's the reality. But I will say this. Everyone gets old in this game. Everyone gets old in this game. Time waits for no man. That includes trainers as well.
So wouldn't he do better going down the road with his brother?
Time out. What's going on with Ronnie Shields? You keep
I don't know what you're talking about, brother.
You keep making these little innuendos, man.
We'll know what you talk.
Wouldn't he do better going down the road with his brother?
Woo, boy, look at the time, James.
Joseph.
Oh yeah,
Joseph.
10 minutes is run out, man.
Joseph.
Prepare for your show. So
Joseph, I got a question.
Yes, sir, academic.
Wouldn't he do better going down the road with his brother and Errol Spence? Wouldn't that make him better?
I don't understand what you're saying exactly. Please
training
rephrase that.
with Derek James. He said, "What if he go down and go train with Derek James?"
I said, wouldn't he do better if he went down the road and trained with them? Exactly. Yes.
No. Because once again, you look at the style of Jermell before he ended up working with Derek James.
Yeah,
he was what people in this business call a cutie pie. He's a guy who would
Slick
stay
boxer.
from mid to long range and just be a slick boxer, a la Austin Trout, but with more crack in his shot. So again, Jermell really benefited from bringing that dog out of him, training with Derek James. He's now proven himself to be one of the most complete fighters in boxing because he had dude. How many people get to train with Ronnie and Derek James? He's once again, that's a privilege right there. Very few fighters get that kind of treatment, and it's for good reason. He's a special fighter. But Jamal is a different animal. Does he need Derek James to bring that dog out of him? Hell no. He's already a complete fighter. He can do it all. He can box you from mid to long range, or he can bang you from the inside. Dude, he is a complete fighter, and he is a complete dog. One of the few fighters I've ever seen that gets better when they become more emotional. Like that never happens, James. That's usually a deterrent and a detriment to your ability. But he seems to get better, stronger, more focused, more dialed in the more emotional he gets about a matchup. He's a special fighter, guys. And once again, he's not going to leave Ronnie Shields, and he wouldn't benefit from training with anyone else.
Right. Yeah, he's not leaving Brother Ronnie Shields anytime soon, especially coming from, last weekend.
You know, brother.
I just missed out. I just missed out.
But though, man, look, Ronnie, he's got it made. Ronnie, and keep in mind, guys.
So Ronnie Shields about to get both Charlos?
I don't know what you're talking about, dude. Now, once again, that's I'll tell you what. When the time comes, we'll be a lot more specific, and it'll make mainstream news, right? But until then,
they started beefing with Derek James. That's crazy.
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Then Chalil Charlo started beefing with Derek James, and he's about to switch training to Ronnie Shields. That's crazy.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say that either.
Yeah, he didn't say that.
Well, I didn't say that at all.
All right, fellas, I'm gonna holler at y'all later.
All right, watch the academic for joining us, man. You know what I'm saying? So we'll talk about different things when it comes to Mr. Jamal Charlo. Like I said, I had just missed out on being around his particular camp, but he will be back real soon. That is a fact.
Yeah, I tell you what though, guys. I will say this. There's really not much to talk about when it comes to Jaime Munguia and Sergey Derevyanchenko, other than all balls, great all action scrap for the mainstream and casual fans. Much to be desired for the diehard, the more discerning fight fan.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this: congratulations to both men for a great effort that increased their stock respectively. Both men. That's a very rare occurrence that both men actually win.
I wouldn't put it around that fight of the year type of thing there. I don't know if it would be much of a candidate. I wanted to bring up this other fight that happened earlier this year, in February of this year, Luis Neri versus Azat Hovnesian. That one was one of those
that was all balls, brother.
Yeah.
Yep.
What about the Kenny Sims fight?
That was a great fight, but no. But look, guys. What determines in my mind, and everyone's perception and curriculum, it's different, right? Mine is there has to be a consequence waiting at the end of the fight for the winner or the loser. And in my opinion, the Haney Lomachenko fight, and judging by the reaction of the fans, they understood what was at stake. Mm-hmm. To me, when you couple that with the way the fight played out, all action, elite level chess match, one fighter not really until the 10th and 11th round, not really getting the better of their opponent, and the high drama that it ended with, that's fight of the year in my opinion. But I will say this, brother. Last thing, I am completely disgusted, and I couldn't care less to see Canelo Alvarez ever again. This guy and his fans defend this kind of caca, man.
Every time.
What the hell, brother?
But
he had the opportunity to fight David Benavidez, and now he's going to fight Edgar Berlanga, and then next year
Badu Jack
for the WBC Cruiserweight title, and his fans give him a damn pass.
Yo,
I'm not gonna lie, and disgusted.
Canelo fans are up there with Deontay Wilder fans, and even though I'm a hardcore Mayweather fan, the Mayweather and Pacquiao clan, those four fan bases are real toxic and terrible.
Let's just be honest.
Now wait until after this fight. Then you'll
Nah, you see,
Dude, we're
the
gonna
Spence,
see another Lomachenko-Haney controversy again.
you see, the Spence fans, I put them in a different category because they part of a larger conglomerate of PBC fanboys. So I put them in a bigger conglomerate. I think
Oh,
Wilder,
jeez.
I,
come
think-
on, man.
I think Wilder
Yo.
exists outside of that.
Let's
Yeah,
get
yeah,
to this
yeah.
thing with Canelo, right? So this is the second time that Canelo has pretty much declined an offer to fight David Benavidez.
Yep.
Second
Mhm.
time.
Yep.
And he wants to accept 2 fights that aren't even near any type of level of any other option that he has. And get this, and Joe, you kind of know this from his last fight that he had against John
Mhm.
Ryder, that he's
Yep.
gonna ask for a certain minimum
Yep.
that we all know that they aren't gonna be able to make that money back with either one of those fights.
Yep. That's
So
it.
it's gonna be very ridiculous for Santos Saul Alvarez Barragan to go forward and fight against Edgar Berlanga and Badu Jack.
Why do you think? Why do you think? Yeah. Why do you think they're going to Saudi Arabia, brother?
Well, Saudi Arabia is the bailout plan for a number
That's
of these
it
fighters.
for every stinker, right? For every stinker. Now, Canelo Alvarez, once again, he is still one of the biggest attractions in boxing. But, guys, that matchup is a stinker that can't sell. I don't care who you are. I don't care what level of attraction you have. You're not selling that fight to the mainstream and casual audience. Okay, my apologies for my neighbor being a motorhead. My apologies, guys. He just took off with his Harley. But I will say this. I will say this though. This is why it's going to be in Saudi Arabia, because they know DAZN is not licking their chops, looking, hey, where do I sign?
Right.
What? Hey, make your own checkout. No, dude. No, they need that Saudi Arabia money to.
Series.
Yep.
That they have with Bivol and Gilberto Ramirez. Whereas
Yo,
Zurdo.
there
Yep.
was nobody that was going to properly be interested in hosting that fight. So they're
Yep.
like, where in the world could we get this hosted at?
Yep.
Oh, Saudi Arabia. Oh, y'all want to give us no? Okay,
both of
great.
y'all.
Y'all have the fight.
What's up, brother?
Both of y'all missing a key potential point. There is a legitimate chance Quigley beats fucking Berlanga. Berlanga does suck now. There's a chance he fucks this whole thing up before it even happens.
Oh, look. I would be ecstatic if that happened. I'd be laughing my ass off. But, brother, there's no chance. You're talking about Jason Quigley, brother.
Yeah, I know. But Berlanga
no. He may be winning the fight after 6 rounds, but he's going to get knocked out. That's in his DNA. He's going to get knocked out. Okay, nothing is ruining this Canelo fight. But I would laugh my ass off if that happened, but it's highly unlikely.
Yeah,
it's highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely there, man. So
I think Berlanga's that bad. I mean, I know I say a lot of fighters bad, but yo, it seems like the fighters that get promoted the most for some reason.
You know what? He is that bad, but he can punch.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He can punch. So
and Jason Quigley, he doesn't have the greatest chin in the world, and that's why this fight is being made.
That's why they made that fight. You're right.
Yep. And what does it happen later on this month? It's happening later on this month?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to find out, guys, and you're going to see he's going to be struggling with Quigley, and then all of a sudden, boop, over.
And guess what? And guess what? Every fucking Canelo fan is going to tell everybody that this was Felix Trinidad reincarnated.
Now, the thing that pisses me off about these fans consistently saying, oh, Charlo, what has he done to deserve this fight? Oh, Benavidez, what has he done to deserve this fight?
Well, what has he done to deserve this fight?
Apply that same logic to Hamburger Berlanga. Okay? Apply that same logic to Cheeseburger Berlanga. That guy is a bomb, dude. And I never use that term. Never. And the reason why I'm using that term now, is because this jerk off thinks he is ready. Oh man, I left Top Rank because they were holding me back. Are you kidding me, brother?
That word.
Anyway, it's 10 minutes until my show with Gogi. We're going on at 10 p.m. Eastern instead of 11. So we'll see you there, guys. Hopefully, if you can migrate over when you finish. But JR, Zoe, always a pleasure, guys. Boxing Academic, always a pleasure. Thank you, JR. It's had fun, brother, ranting about all of this nonsense. Love you guys. Take care, brother.
Yeah, no problem.
Right,
Thanks as always for joining in, brother Joe. Yeah, man, that's gonna be a whole mess there with Canelo Alvarez, man. And I know that we touched on it a little bit earlier. Adrien Broner, of course, came back, beat Bill Hutchinson by decision, man. And like you said, he said, anybody can get it. American, Mexican, Dominican, anybody.
Lawyers.
Yeah, lawyers, man, whatever it is. But the thing that got me was that he called out all of the current champions out of the weight class of 140, even though this particular fight was north of 140. What got me was a message from the WBC champion Regis Prograis. He actually brought up the idea of having a fight with him and Adrien Broner.
Fucking ridiculous. I seen that shit.
And I'm like, so you mean to tell me, and this is what it makes it even worse, right? You mean to tell me you could have had an opportunity to sign with Top Rank where you could have fought the winner of Taylor Lopez, which is now Lopez, in a unification. And you had the whole thing about having the idea that, Subriel Matias was going to sign with Matchroom. Well, no, that's not going to happen because Subriel Matias is signed up for a fight now under PBC. So now you're pretty much like, you're going to be content with what? Facing Montana Love or maybe Richardson Hitchens or, something like that. You know what I'm saying? Or Jack Catterall, since they done signed Jack Catterall. But you could have had these opportunities to try to unify the belts at 140, and you didn't want to do that.
Even if you wanted a light touch and you wanted to make money, you could have fucking went to PBC and fought fucking Rolly for some money and an easy touch.
Right, that could have been another option for you.
Yeah, like that guy.
For unification.
God.
But he just said nah, so he's gonna end up facing Danielito Zorrilla here in New Orleans. Yeah, that's a replacement opponent for who we had before. But still, it's like you're gonna have this fight against Zorrilla, and you're gonna have like maybe a couple other fights there within the 140-pound division, not really, facing none of the other champions out there at 140 or none of the top contenders out there at 140. And it's you're talking about bringing up a potential fight with Adrien Broner. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay. I think this is his schedule. After he fights this bum at New Orleans, and this nigga is not worth me knowing his name. After he beats this bum in New Orleans, he's gonna fight Broner next, and then he's gonna end his last fight with Matchroom against Anthony Hitchinson.
Oh, you mean Richardson Hitchens?
Yeah. Africa. Yeah, that's how I see it going, man. And then the whole time, he's gonna be calling out every single fucking person within his weight class.
Yeah,
I'm sick of him. I'm not gonna lie. He's a great talent, but I'm really sick of him.
Yeah, it's like you're a two-time champion there at 140, but it's like he's moving like he's perfectly content with facing the guys at the level that he's faced them. You know what I mean? And me and Joseph have kind of like talked about it with Regis Prograis too. It's like, hey, you talk about potentially fighting these other guys that are around or at the top of the division, and then you go somewhere where they're not going to be at. That doesn't make sense, So there's that.
Yeah. And I don't want to call him a duck because based off what I've seen on him, but he's not. But man, This look bad. This look bad, bro. You ducked all the smoke.
Yeah, you're right. It's a bad look for him.
You
Shout
ducked-
out to Adam in here late on the live. You know, yeah, he goes on one of the things there, the topic. Teal hasn't had enough fights to know if he's a Hall of Famer yet. Yeah,
Now that's
well,
tough.
hey, I know of a certain fighter out there that has just about the same amount of fights. They're talking about he's a surefire.
Yeah, yes.
You know, so there's
With
that.
more law, I know a fighter with 3 losses that people say is a bona fide Hall of Famer.
It's a bona fide surefire Hall of Famer. Yep. So
I know a fighter every time he loses, he go up on the pound for pound list by Ring Magazine, but that's neither here or there.
yeah, Ring Magazine, the ESPN, one of them two.
They got a crush on him, man. They got a crush on that guy. That's cool.
Yeah. So
Okay, where's T on your pound for pound list right now?
oh, he might be around there 10. The thing about it is that, you know, early when I had the pound for pound list, when the guy was active, I had Josh Taylor in the pound for pound list when he was active.
Me too.
But since he had been inactive for over a year, he pretty much was like out of the list. So now with this thing here with Teofimo Lopez, you know, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe you could put him there at 10. I don't know, because right now I have Artur Beterbiev at 10. And, you know, he has, you know, a fight coming up too. So I don't know. Maybe he's around that, you know, that 10 range or a little bit outside of that.
I think I got him on. I think I got him from above. I'm not saying he's better than Haney. I'll pick Haney to beat him, but I think he's above Haney right now. He's above Shakur. He's above Arthur Beterbiev. You feel me? Like, because I don't think there's another person in the pound for pound list that has 2 better wins than him.
I mean that could be the case there. Like you said, Josh Taylor and Lomachenko have been, you know, considered pound for pound, you know, guys.
Lineal guys like the man at that. You feel me? Like he beat
lineal champs too. So
like when you say he beat both of them, like who the closest guy you can say is Usyk, but a lot of people don't want to call AJ the number 1 guy. So that's, you know.
Nah, I got Usyk at number 1 pound for pound right now. So
no, I got Inoue, man. Inoue been in my pound for pound list since 2015, man. So I got Inoue number 1.
Yeah, so there's that. Quick on the live chat, shout out to everyone that's listening live. If you haven't done so already, you can hit the like button on the YouTube live thing there. We really appreciate it to support the Boxing Source.
And subscribe.
You know, yeah, subscribe to the Boxing Source too. Adam Hurley says the thing in reference to like weight divisions, they need to make it simpler so the common fan can watch boxing easier. Cut it to 10 weight classes. Yeah, I mean they could easily cut it to 10 weight classes. All they got to do is just consolidate the bottom part of the you know, weight thing, man. Like, how you gonna have like a 105, a 108,
112, 115, 118? Like, what the fuck?
Like, so I mean, this is the thing there with the innerweight joint. Like, he's like what, a 4 division or 4 division world champion or something like that. I think he skipped 1 division though. I think he went from light.
He's 3. Yeah, 10. He went up 108, 115, 118.
Yeah. So it's like he skipped 112. So it's like you got 105, 108, 112, 115, 118. That's like 5 divisions right there. You can consolidate that to like 2 or 3. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm like, come on, man. Like, like.
But I'm not gonna lie.
That would be, you know, that would be fine. I would be cool with that. They just consolidate like from 105 to like 118 or something. They could, you know, cut that. You know what I mean?
What do you have anyway in your pound for pound?
I have him at number 3.
Who's in front of him? Like Bud and
Usyk
yeah,
1,
yeah.
Spence 2, Inoue 3.
Who's number 2?
Huh?
Who's number 2?
Spence.
Spence.
Yep, I have Spence. I have Spence number 2. Okay.
Number 2,
Yep, that's right. I have
Spence.
Spence at number
Terry
2.
Norris.
I have. Here it goes with the whole Oh man. All right. I got Spence number 2, anyway at number 3, Jamel Charlo at number 4, Terence Crawford at 5, Fulton 6, Tank 7, Dev 8, Shakur 9, and Beterbiev at 10. And
You
that's
see,
June 2nd.
I think Shakur, like skill for skill, is the best dude in the list, but I don't have him in the top 10 because he just needs a little more, a little more meat in his plate. You feel me? Because how many like
Yeah.
so far Devin Haney. I think I got Devin. Huh?
No, I'm saying like Shakur Stevenson could be higher if he had like more definitive wins or more better wins on his resume.
But regardless, yeah, but to me, I just got him just outside my top 10. But I am tempted to put him in the top 10. It's just the way he dominated, like, because he dominated the number 1 and number 2 guy in this division back to back, and it wasn't close. You feel me? He smoked them. You feel me? Like I don't care what nobody say about Valdez. Valdez is a quality fighter. The only thing we say otherwise, be those weird Tank fans. You feel me? We all know Valdez is a quality fighter, and he smoked them. You feel me? Jamal Herring is, but he smoked him too. You feel me? And Senkai is a good fighter. He smoked him. You feel me? Oh, Yoshino, no matter how much people try to take away from Yoshino is a C+ fighter, higher level than, a Rolly, for instance. You feel me? He smoked him. You feel me? Like that stuff, when I see how he smoked these people like effortlessly and it's not close, it makes me tempted to put him in the top 10, but he needs a little more meat in his bone. So I got Devin Haney up there. I think so. I know I got my list written down. It's just I don't got it in front of me. But I think I got. But I know I'm about to make a new one. I definitely putting Tio in there now. I got to. Maybe as high as number 6. I think because those
I
2
think
wins, bro.
you had sent me a list some time back.
Yeah, that was a month ago. But with the Tio win, I gotta, and it's not just that Tio won. It's just like he smoked Josh Taylor, man. Like he
Right.
smoked him quite. Like he smoked him. Like that. That gotta count for something. Like smoking. Like you're not going life and death with the number 1 guy. You feel me? Like for instance, Charlo fought the number 2 guy twice. You feel me? The first one was a life and death fight. You feel me? Like Tio didn't do that against the number 1 guy. He smoked them. You feel me? You feel me? That shit got to count. That shit got to count, dog. And Canelo, I think the John Ryder fight and the Triple G fight left such a bad taste in my mouth. I think I might have Canelo like at like 8 or 9 or some shit because those last 2 performances show me a declining fighter, though. Like I really don't look at him the same no more. So he's a little low on my list. Of course, I don't have Lomachenko. Of course, I don't. You feel me? I got a top 15 out of it. I think I got Tank in my top 15 at number 15. Let's see. I don't think I got Fury. Yeah, I think I got Fury up there, but I don't got Fury as high as other people do because I don't get it. You feel me? I don't get the. I don't get it. You feel me? I just don't get it. But I got him.
The last joint that I saw from you that was from April. So I need a updated joint there, man. But yeah.
Yeah, I know Devin Haney's in my top 10, and that was before Devin Haney fought Lomachenko. So Devin Haney definitely gotta be maybe number 7 or something. Bro. Yeah, I think I might have Devin Haney at 7. I don't know. I gotta look at my list to remember, but I know definitely number 1. My top 3 is Usyk. I mean, Fulton number 1. I mean, not Fulton. Anyway, number 1. Fred number 2. Usyk number 3. And I think I got Errol Spence number 4. And I forgot who I have at 5. But I know I have.
You had Mel at one point, so.
At 5?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mel at 5. So yeah, number 6 would be Tio. No, I don't know, man. I don't know about putting Mel in front of Tio, bro. I might have to put.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I don't know, man. Yo, he smoked that. Like, dog, Does Mel has a better win than Josh Taylor or T.O.? He has a bunch of Comeys in his resume. He got a bunch of those. You feel me? But he don't got no T.O.s and he don't got no Lomas and Taylors. Nobody does. Nobody does, bro.
Yeah, that's the thing to consider is, how much weight does that have as far as like putting a fighter in the pound for pound list, or have them ranked in a certain level of the pound for pound list. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
like
that's the thing to consider about Teofimo Lopez. But with that, man, it's almost over 2.5 hours here on this live joint, man. I'm
oh
about
shit,
to
yeah.
bring this joint up to a close, man. Here it's a little bit after 10 p.m. Eastern time. Big thanks to Zoe for joining in. A big thanks to
Yo.
for joining in, and of course Joseph Aaron of Warwick Radio Network had like a real, big debate about Josh Taylor and his limited abilities in this particular podcast. But we'll talk about a few more things here on the next podcast coming up. We'll see what happens with the press conferences for Errol Spence and Terence Crawford coming up this week, and we got like a few other things coming up. Regis Progress is going to be fighting on Saturday, so maybe we'll touch on that. We'll see how that goes there. But with that being said, that is this edition of the Boxing Source Radio Show.
Wait,
and like
before you leave, Teofimo Lopez is the flea market version of Shane Mosley.
You know what, though? That might be a point. With that being said, point of boxing is a hit, not get hit, not to send a trade. On that note, folks, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.